Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another pair of rounds in the UK Sim Racing community's Porsche Cup Season 7, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today, we mark rounds 4 and 5 here at the Mecca of road racing in the United States of America. We all know and love it. It is known as Watkins Glen International. Affectionately referred to as the Glen by many, it is a circuit that enthralls spectators and drivers alike for its combination of extended straights, camber corners and heavy braking zones. And as our drivers take on the cup layout of the circuit today, they'll find themselves in a situation whereby it's Porsche Cup meets NASCAR, with this circuit being used on an annual basis by the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and indeed on the cup layout in particular, seeing drivers have to battle hard under braking and also trying to be brave through the bus stop chicane. Well, for all of our drivers here, it is all going to be about being in the tow, not being afraid to carry all the speed from corner to corner and finding a way to slipstream the way to success. But as we get ready to go racing today, this circuit and played host to practically every major road racing series across the globe, ranging from Formula 1 in past, present and also future, all the way through to GT World Challenge America. It is a circuit that is not to be underestimated, and for the drivers here, in order to be able to take a win at Watkins Glen, is to enshrine their name into the history books of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup. Now we welcome you all as you tune in live by the official broadcast being brought to you from circuit side on the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. And if you go to youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing or UKSR, you can tune in there, and make sure if you're not already to subscribe to the channel, so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcast highlight reels and other video material that we release on a weekly basis. In the quarantine booth you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action today, and indeed for the entirety of the season. And what a season it has been thus far. We are only now into our 4th and 5th rounds after 3 rounds out of 15, but I can tell you one thing, this season is not disappointing. And well, let's give you a quick recap of that calendar and what we still got in store. We started off all the way back on the 29th of June at Road Atlanta. It's strange to think there's already been 2 weeks, but rounds 1 and 2 saw us take on the roller coaster ride of the state circuit in Georgia, and well, what a pair of races it was. But the key fundamental there was that Thomas Cope was leading the way from start to finish and bringing home a double win on his debut for Olympus Esports Vanguard. And well, last time out in round number 3, we saw that continue, with Cope making it 3 wins in a row at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps on the 6th of July in our first endurance race round of the season. But if we wind back the tape a little bit before that, in the silver class at Road Atlanta, we got to see many a driver shine on high, but the one name that has stood out the most in the first 3 rounds has been Jeremy Debova. In the fact, bringing home the win in the feature race at Road Atlanta, and then going on last week to bring home the win in the endurance race in the silver class and his home circuit. The Belgian driver has proven to be the favourite in the silver class so far, much like Cope has in the gold class. But here's the thing in the silver class today, it's all about who is going to be able to rise in the absence of Debova, as he's currently away on vacation, and we hope he's having a great time, and therefore he's not going to be on circuit side, and this is a prime opportunity for his silver rivals to try and jump on through. And the big names in particular that seem to stand out in his absence, Adam Greveson and also what is, I do believe, Chris Rance, both drivers on the podium in the endurance race at Spa-Francorchamps, and both shine at race leading pace. But here today it's the 13th of July, and with it the Watkins Glen International double pair of rounds, and then we go into a break week after this week, whereby we are respecting the fact there's a couple of official iRacing events upcoming, and therefore we don't want to clash with them. So therefore you are going to have your appetite for Porsche Cup racing not completely sated as of next week, but don't worry, we'll be back on the 27th of July for an explosive return to the racing action for rounds 6 and 7 at the Virginia International Raceway, or VIR, located in the state of Virginia, staying in the United States of America. And well, that circuit needs no introduction when it comes to fast flying corners and also major elevation changes. Then round number 8 will make our way back to continental Europe for the Spanish circuit of the Circuito de Jerez on the 3rd of August, and that'll be the first time in the Porsche Cup's history that we make our way to the Jerez circuit, and that could be a very tricky one for many a driver when it's flying corners and also it's downhill runs, seeing our drivers really need to find a way to balance the rear end of the car. But after that we make our way back to the United States of America for the final time this season, the 4th and final time, and that'll be for the Road America circuit in rounds 9 and 10 on the 10th of August, and that'll be in the state of Wisconsin, and the picturesque Elkhart Lake circuit. We'll see our drivers there battle on the extended straights and into the sweeping corners, and who's going to come out on top, given the fact it's all about straight line speed at Road America. In rounds 11 and 12 we continue to stay in the North American continent, but make our way northwards to the circuit Charles Villeneuve, but you all know and love it and refer to it as the Montreal circuit, in what is the hybrid street circuit there as our drivers charge around Montreal Park. And who is going to be able to stay clear of the walls, and particularly the Wall of Champions, we'll find out on the 17th of August. And now our final pair of sprint and feature race rounds, we'll see in rounds 13 and 14 we'll make our way back in time and over to the United Kingdom for the legacy version of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, the version which was faster compared to today's more safety orientated but still fast fast and very aggressive layout to Silverstone. On the 24th of August, we go into the time machine and get to see who can battle it out through history. And then we bring it all to a close with round number 15 of 15 at the Suzuka circuit in Japan, as our drivers will take on the Grand Prix layout of the infamous circuit, which is no stranger to title-defining drama right at the end of the season. And that'll be on the 31st of August. We bring everything to a close. But goodness me, that schedule leaves me breathless, I must say. And whilst we've got plenty of rounds to go, we look into tonight with rounds 4 and 5, and well, let's give you a recap of the standings after the first 3 rounds. We start off with the Drivers' Gold Championship, and as we can see, Thomas Cope leads the way with an advantage of 76 points to 39 for Kory Lazarus. That gap standing and spanning at 37 points. The Olympus Esports Vanguard driver is running away clear, and right now the question is who can stop him. Well, the backup motorsport driver of Kory Lazarus will feel as though he's the one to be able to do so, with the New Zealander putting on absolutely brilliant pace towards the end of the race at Spa, and definitely showing his command of tyre management and also the fact he's not far off the Cope's pace. But 2 points behind him, we have Paul Busby, the Effect Simulations driver, who has also shown that he can keep Cope honest all the way through the racing, and is very good when running in the tow of another car, and that may bode well for today, given the emphasis of Watkins Glen and Slipstream assisted racing. Then we see Igor Kos moving up to P4 for FTR Esports, and on 24 points, matches Dan Sedgley, but is ahead based on result count back ahead of the Olympus Esports Titan driver. And then Philip Hammer just outside the top 5 for Team Germany, still well within the hunt on 22 points, ahead of Patrick Thompson, who also at 22 points is now started to find some momentum despite the struggles of Spa last week, albeit to be fair, he went from P15 down to P38 and had to recover his way all the way back up into inside the top 20 over the course of the 45 minutes of racing, which was no mean feat. In P8, we have DBL's Lucas Mano, who's also shown a great turn of pace, battling for top 5 finishes already. The same with Case Brown and Danny Lee complete your top 10, with then Khalid Ramadan P11 for SomSport, 2 points clear of James Barker, and as we can see our way outside of the top 10 now and further down to the conclusion of the top 20, we can see Emil Koumans in P13 behind Parker by only 2 points, and the Apex Business driver still trying to find that momentum from last season to carry him forward. Simon B. Bamber and Lee Deemer complete your top 15, with Jack Atkinson at P16 for the UKSimRacing admin team. Unfortunate not to pick up some further points, but results have not gone his way so far. And there's Mark Jones, Stefan Liversidge, and also Roxanne Marshall and Nathan Foster who complete your top 20, with Joe Newman just outside the top 20 based on result count back in P21 for Empire Motorsport behind his teammate. And it's Ryan Walker who makes his debut today for Satellite Racing with his P22 with 0 points, and the same for Ashley England there for Tresla Racing. Now negative points due to post-race penalties, we can see Dean Powell ahead of Lee Holmes, followed up by Marcel Fridge, and lastly Ben Peterson, who has picked up quite a few penalty points recently and therefore now need to try and recover. Then looking to the silver class, we can see here the complexion is a little bit different. We do have a runaway leader by 30 points. It's Jeremy DeBoer for DVR by McChallenge. But meanwhile, behind Adam Greaveson and Chris Eddersford are separated by 11 points there. And it does look as though Greaveson in the FR20 Sim Racing outfit will be trying to hunt down DeBoer today, given the fact that DeBoer will not be here. But still look to P4, and you can see CS Sim Racing UK's Chris Rance is only 1 point off of the top 3. And whereas Eddersford has had some difficulties in the last couple of rounds, meanwhile Rance has started to build a lot of pace and build it quickly. Glenn Humberstone completes your top 5 at ATEC Racing, ahead of Wayne Basson, with Mark Oliver ahead of Cameron Smith. Then we have Sean Cranny Swash and Jules Bounce who complete the top 10, both on 14 points, but bounce behind Cranny Swash based on result countback. And then outside the top 10, best of the rest P11 is Steve Hobbs, ahead of Sean Doby with D.D. Villaming P13. Then we have Jeremy Story and Aaron Tresler completing the top 15. And keep your eyes on Jeremy Story as well, had a difficult race at Spa, finding out that he wasn't able to even make it 100 metres without being involved in an instant, and not to say he was the one at fault for that one, he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he'll be looking to try and bounce back strongly today for Top Gear Sim Racing. And then P16 we have Paul Joseph Cliss for Olympus Esports Titan, who continues to go from strength to strength as the season carries forward, with Richard White, Alex Hiscox, Steve Lathwell and Daniel Fritz completing the top 20, and the Whiskey Runners Race to try looking to get his first points on the board, as is Steve Lathwell just ahead of him currently. Then on negative points, P21, Alistair Hatcher for ATEC Tech, ahead of rival team strike ATEC-Tech Craig Schill, and they're on negative points due to post-race penalties. Now going on to the team standings meanwhile, here the complexion is a bit different, in the fact that we do have a runaway leader, and then everybody else following behind cannot stop fighting one another. Olympus Esports Vanguard on 98 points. They are well clear currently by the best part of 51 points over Effect Simulations, and when you put into the mind that Paul Busby is the sole driver of Effect Simulations, it goes to show how hard he's pushing in order to hold on to that P2 spot. But with Olympus Esports Vanguard seemingly leading the way and breaking away at a rate of knots, it's now who's on for P2 and the right to close the Olympus Esports team down. Well, Effect Simulations will take the stake to the claim, but they're 6 points clear of Blackout Motorsport, who I think when they find their momentum and rhythm, they will be starting to leap up through the standings and hunt down the leading team, with Olympus Esports tighten a further 3 points behind, and FTR Esports in at P5 on 24 points. DBR at P6, still trying to find a few more points on the board, but doing well to be just outside the top 5. They're 2 clear of Team Germany, with SomSport and Race Summaries at DCW Racing and DBR Bowman Challenge completing your top 10. And then P11 is Apex Missers, who are just off of the top 10 by a single point, but ahead of FR20 Sim Racing and 24 Hour Bunty People. And then UKSimRacing Admin Team and Fix Auto Aberdare complete your top 15. Empire Motorsport at P16 currently on 4 points, looking to make their way into the top 15 today, with Tresla Racing behind them by 2, and on equal points but behind based on result count back in P18 it's Top Gear Sim Racing, followed up by Clicks Racing, and then ATEC Tech Racing complete your top 20. Yet to score any teams points, Whiskey Runners Racing and Team Wales, with CS Sim Racing UK and ATEC Tech both on negative points in P23 and P24, and that is due to post-race penalties. But that's an update on the standings going into tonight, and now let's look to our circuit for today, and it is the Watkins Glen International Cup circuit, located near the village of Watkins Glen in Schuyler County of the state of New York in the United States of America. As you can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator, and with it the brilliant track maps that are made available. This is a circuit which is all about carrying speed from corner to corner. That may appear apparent given the fact there's only 7 of the corners round here. Indeed, each of the corners are sweepers in their own right, but as our drivers make their way across the start finish straight and in towards turn number 1, affectionately known as 90 right, in the fact it's a right ankle corner and it's a right-handed corner at that. Our drivers need to battle onto the brakes into the downhill braking zone and absolutely abuse the inside camber of the corner in order to carry the speed out before they make their way up through the S's at turns 2, 3 and 4. Going up through there, we'll expect our drivers to go flat out when they've got the tyre temperatures all the way up to the optimum threshold, and at the same time they've got quite low fuel in the car. But there it's all about trying to carry as much speed as you make your way onto the straight, which takes you up towards the outer loop corner at turn number 5. But before they get there, they need to go through the chicane, the bus stop chicane, which is not given a corner number if you will, but instead it's just seen as a part of the extended straight. Now drivers will go from right left into left right, and it's all about who can get ahead under braking on the inside of the start of the chicane. Indeed, we could see some 2 wide moments all the way through it, and those will be spectacular, there's no doubt about it. But coming out to that, our drivers need to very quickly get themselves set up at outer loop corner at turn number 5. Well, there it's a heavily off camber corner, which we'll see our drivers spat out onto the back straight, and as they make the way down, not going into the boot, but instead carrying on all the way back to the start finish straight, they're heading to turn 6 and 7, which the left into right, with the left-hander could be attacked much more aggressively, and there's plenty of runoff area to be abused. But meanwhile, turn number 7, if they go too wide at turn 7, they'll find themselves in to the outside wall, and their race may just be over. But then head on to the start finish straight, they'll do it all again. It was an absolute heart-pounding lap around the Watkins Glen Cup circuit, and on top of that, we're going to be seeing some of our highest average lap speeds over the course of the season here today. But before we go racing, a quick reminder of the rules. Qualifying wise, a lone qualifying format shall be used, as we are in a sprint and feature combination pair of rounds, with drivers having 8 minutes to set their best possible time, and the races shall commence by a standing start, as is the tradition of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup. The sprint race grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying, with the feature race grid being a partial reverse grid based on the results of the sprint race, with the top 8 positions being inverted, so the winner of the sprint race will start P8 on the grid for the feature. Meanwhile, the 8th place finisher will start on pole for the purposes of the feature race, and there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in either the sprint or the feature race, so we'll see drivers come into the pits for one of 2 reasons, either firstly because they need to make repair work to the car and one fast repair is available in each race, alternatively they picked up a drive-through penalty because they've accumulated 15 or more instant points. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the racing. Well, as we get ready to go racing, it's a bit of a quiet circuit currently. Let's take you through our schedule for today. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC at +1. And as we can see, in just over what is 30 seconds time, we'll be going into our qualifying session, 8 minutes in duration, with all the drivers out on the isolated instance of their circuit and hence lone qualifying, at which point after that we'll then make our way immediately to the grid for what is the build up to our first race of the day, the round 4 sprint race, 12 minutes in duration, and then we'll take a brief breather before returning at what will be just before 8:30 this evening for our 30-minute feature race, round number 5 of the calendar. And there it's going to be 2.5 times the duration of the sprint, and time management and also consistency are going to be ever key. But as all of our drivers get set, and I do believe the majority of our drivers are now in the pit lane, indeed everybody right now just very comfortably waiting to go racing. Well, this final practice session is all set and ready to go, but everybody here absolutely itching to go racing, and we are all waiting to set in terms of what is going to be happening today. But in fact, ladies and gentlemen, we have had some information to say there has been some technical difficulties with the race lobby, so we do apologise. We will be right back, and I think we are going to be right back with a brief warm-up before we go into qualifying, so we'll see you very shortly, but we do apologise for this. It does happen, of course, little technical hiccups every so often, but we'll be back within the next couple of minutes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Apologies there for the unexpected intermission. To quickly explain, the original iRacing lobby that we had set up essentially had a technical issue in it whereby we would not be able to go racing as expected today. So we have had to form another lobby quite rapidly, but now we are into the throes of qualifying. We are 2.5 minutes in, so our drivers right now all getting their first laps on the board as soon as possible, as we do look to Lucas Romano making his way on through turn 6 into 7 and getting himself warmed up. So we haven't missed too much. We have missed a lap or two from our drivers, but as they all make the way on around here, we can see Sproul charging up the hill through the S's right now. And as he does, perhaps the big question on everybody's mind is, what does it take in order to deliver a great lap at Watkins Glen and potentially get yourselves on pole at the Cup layout of the circuit? Well, the key thing around here is you need to be able to carry as much speed as humanly possible from corner to corner. Apex speed is absolutely critical, and also the ability to return to full throttle as soon as possible, and every mile now then be essentially amplified as our drivers make their way down the extended straights and in towards the next corner, and that is going to be what the difference is between being on pole and being towards the back of the field. But as we do see Sproul making his way all the way out towards turn number 6, coming in to the braking zone here and through. Well, we're right now going on to what is the conclusion of his second flying lap and going into his third very shortly. We will get on board with 1 or 2 of our drivers before this qualifying session is done and dusted. Keep in mind they do have plenty of laps available to them, and in fact we may be getting a lap on very shortly. We have Thomas Cope, as we do see Cope heading across the timing line, and as he goes on to a new lap, here is on board from Thomas Cope, your championship leader in the gold class. As he breaks his way down into turn number 1, going through 90 right, braking at the 300-yard corner on his left-hand side, getting back on the throttle now and charging through the S's, and let's listen. Completely committed to being flat out there through turns 2, 3 and 4 as he makes his way now on the straight up towards the chicane, heading down towards the chicane in excess of 162 miles an hour, and looking to his left hand side to his brake mark of the 300-yard board, trail breaking down from 6th gear to 4th gear as he connects the dots together via the apex, and now coming into the out loop corner turn number 5, drops the third, gets a very early apex in order to be able to pull the car around, and as he makes his way out of the corner using all the runoff area there as a minute to do so, will make his way down the back straight and up towards turn number 6. Now getting ready to head into the braking zone here, and as he heads on to the anchors, coming through the left and to right of 6 into 7, and you can see Coe now bringing the car over to the left hand side for the brakings over the final corner, braking nice and early but staying in 4th gear in order to minimise the wheel spin as he gets the power back down, now heads up towards the start finish line, and as he does, what's it going to be this time around from Coe? Well, he was previously at provisional pole, but he's been dethroned to P2 by Thompson, and in fact he's improved to 109.130, but that does leave him 1.5 seconds off of Patrick Thompson, who is currently your provisional pole sitter. And well, when I had the opportunity to catch up with Thompson in the build-up to tonight, he was looking forward to the race, and I think he did have a bit of an itch to scratch with regards to trying to recover after what happened at Spa-Francorchamps a week ago. But meanwhile, as we look from Cope to one of our silver class drivers, we look to Didier Verlaine. And as we do see him making his way on down towards the bus stop chicane here with just under half the session still remaining, getting himself as composed as possible here. And well, what's it going to be for the driver from DBR as he comes on down and through what is turn at number 5. He is currently in P21 overall, or that is P4 in the silver class. And if you're wondering about where our drivers are in relation to each other in their respective classes, we can show you those class standings. And in fact, we will try to bring those up on the board very shortly for you indeed, with regards to where all the drivers are positioned in relation to one another. And well, right now we can see Verlaine currently P21 and still trying to find that lap time out there as he comes on through the corners and onwards towards the next one. In fact, comes into the pit lane then, decides enough's enough for the time being as we look to Rance. Meanwhile, the UKSimRacing UK driver heading down towards the next braking zone, and as he does, we do quickly see him coming into the corner, but does he get as much speed on corner exit? Well, as he comes on through there, a very smooth run, and he gets it hooked up just about right as he now charges his way up the hill and making his way on around here, absolutely on a mission to go full attack as much as he can. But will he be able to? That is the challenge as he heads all the way through and onwards and towards the chicane, and we'll head into the braking zone here. Well, it does look as though Rance getting it nicely set up with regards to the run on through, and heading on towards the outer loop now, coming on through turn number 5, riding the apex curve as best as possible. He's not got long left in this qualifying session to be able to deliver the time that he so craves, but I think he'll feel as though he's doing a good enough job. Here, Steve Hobbs is currently your fastest silver driver in P7, and as Rance goes through the left into right here, it turns 6 and 7. Going on out now in terms of using that runoff area to set up all the speed he can into the final corner. It's going to be one of the last qualifying laps we're going to see here in the qualifying session at Watkins Glen. Or is it going to be for Rance as he heads to the timing line? It is not an improvement for Rance. He will stay at P12, and with that, that'll be P2 in the silver class. And it does look as though Steve Hobbs is going to be your silver pole sitter. He'll be starting P7 on the overall grid. And will Patrick Thompson right now will be currently on course to take on the gold class. As we see Powell crossing the line there, he improves to P15 or 109.73A. So Dean Powell finding a last gasp bit of time. Meanwhile, Stephen Lathwell crosses the line. He does not improve. He'll start P32. Lee Deem across the line, he does not improve either. And that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Thompson takes overall pole, and well, as our drivers now get ready to head to the grid, this is how they line up for our first race of the day. Well, Patrick Thompson will start an overall pole and gold pole with it for Olympus Esports Vanguard, and he'll be joined on the front row by teammate Thomas Cope as it's a 1-2 for the Olympus Esports team. Behind them, starting on the second row, it's Team Germany's Philip Hammer, joined by Samuel K. Sproul for Blackout Motorsport. Then we have James Parker starting P5 for iRacing DCW Racing, joined by Daniel Sedgey for Olympus Esports Titan. On row number 4, it's your silver pole sitter starting P7 for FR20 Sim Racing at Steve Hobbs, and he's joined by Lee Holmes. And then we do have behind them Igor Kos for FTR Esports and Khalid Ramadan for Somsport. Outside the top 10 on row number 6, it's Kory Lazarus for Blackout Motorsport and UKSimRacing UK's Chris Rance, followed up by the pairing on row number 7 are Jack Atkinson and Danny Lee. And on row at number 8, it's Dean Powell and Simon B. Bamber, followed up by Mark Jones and Lucas Romano, with your top 20 being filled out in row number 10 by Nathan Foster and Chris Eddersford. Behind the UKSimRacing admin team driver, we have Ryan Walker, who starts P21 on the 11th row of the grid for Satellite Racing, and he is joined on his debut by FI20 Sim Racing's Adam Greaveson. Then we have DDD Blaming and Glenn Humberstone starting on your 12th row of the grid, with row 13 going to Sean Dobie and Jeremy Story. Now on row number 14, it's Cameron Smith and Craig Schill, with the top 30 being completed by Sean Cranley Swash and Lee Deemer in the difficult qualifying session for Lee Deemer for Fix Auto Aberdare. Now on row at number 16, it's Paul Joseph Clist and Stephen Lathwell, with the final full row of the grid, row number, 17 going to Marcel Fritsch and Alex Hiscox. And then starting last but not least, P35, not getting a lap on the board, Roxanne Marshall for 24-hour Punty People. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. We are only 20 seconds away, if that, from the lights. And as we do look to the distant view there, as all our drivers get set and ready to go racing, well, who is going to come out on top? That's the big question. Out to Thompson versus Cope. It's going to be a drag race down towards turn number 1. It's all going to come down to the launch off the line. And who is going to be the one who gets it right for the first time today? Well, let's find out. One red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the first race of the day here at Watkins Glen International. Patrick Thompson gets a good start of the line, but look at Hammer behind as Hammer tries to find his way on through. He looks inside, he can't seem to find it. Thompson defends here as Orva tries to make the way through the opening corner, and as they all come roaring on through and up the hill they charge, we can see a little bit of lock up further back there as everybody now starts to settle into a line as best they can. But in the long charge up the hill, we've had a bit of a battle further back as we can see Kory Lazarus trying to come through side by side with Igor Kos. These two are rubbing paint as they make the way through the S's. Lazarus loses it slightly. We'll tap to the wall before he catches the car just in time, and it's all gone very, very wrong through the S's as multiple drivers in an instant. Meanwhile, the front of the field, Thompson had a go, with Hammer also losing it over the apex curve of the chicane as they all come down and through. It's a disaster for many, but meanwhile, those who've been able to survive it, well, they carry on uninterrupted as we see James Parker, who's gained 1 place since the start, continues to gain momentum as he chases after Samuel K. Sproul, but definitely drama further back since the race start, and was our drivers make the way into turn 6 and 7. It's Thompson and Co. who are breaking away with this as Parker right now all over the back of Sproul like a bad rash. We're going into turn number 7 through the right hand. They go to completely open lap, and as they do, well, it is Patrick Thompson who leads after 1 lap of racing there. The Thomas Cope P2, Samuel Case Brown P3 a bit further back by 1.5 seconds, followed James Parker P4, Daniel Sedgey P5 ahead of Lee Holmes P6, Khaled Ramadan P7, Igor Kos P8, and you have Steve Hobbs, your silver leader, still leading the silver class P9, dropping 2 places overall ahead of Simon B. Bamber P10, and then we've got a gap to Nathan Foster P11. He's in effectively the second pack of cars ahead of Adam Greason, who completes the run of P12. As they charged away on through and up the hill this time around, we've definitely had a dramatic start to proceedings today, and well, will we have more of that? That's the big question, as we will look further back to Chris Rance here as he comes down towards turn 1, looking for a move here on what is Marcel Fritsch, looking up the inside of the Austrian driver is the Briton as he goes on to the brakes and coming on down there. I think Rance will get this done just in time, indeed makes the place count as he heads up towards turns 2, 3 and 4, but as he charges on through and up the hill this time around, Rance will be keeping his head down and feeling as though there's a long way to go, given the fact he's lost multiple places since the start of the race today. And well, speaking of what is those losing of places and whatnot, let's show you the relative gaps, what is the relative gains between drivers here, and you can see some of the biggest winners and losers. Well, the biggest winner of them all is this man, Adam Greason, gaining 10 places overall, having started down in what was P22. He's moved up to P12, and with it he's moved up to second place in the silver class as he goes on to another lap here. And Craig Schill a bit further back in P17, also making similar progress as he heads across the time at 11 places gained as he comes on down towards turn 1. And Alex Hiscock's the biggest gainer in the silver class. He's moved all the way up to P22 from P34 on the grid. And we're speaking of Hiscock, we do look to him making his way on through P22 right now, P8 in the silver class. But as he comes on through the opening corner, meanwhile the biggest loser of them all, who was not involved in an incident which absolutely has brought their race to a halt, is Philip Hammer. After a great start off the line, you can see there's some damage too in the Team Germany Pulse Motorsports machine as he comes on through the chicane that calls him out on lap number 1. He'll be hoping that doesn't happen again anytime soon. But as we look back to those relative gaps between the drivers, well, meanwhile making his way on out to turn number 5, he's still got what is 2/3 of this race to go. And with that, he's going to give it everything right now to try and finish inside the top 8 and therefore benefit from the reverse grid. That's got to be his target as he comes on through turns 6 and 7. But coming on out there, meanwhile, we look back up towards your leaders here at Thompson versus Cope. And will these two currently running in formation? I wouldn't be surprised if they do go racing towards the end of the race in terms of battling one another. But right now, Olympus Esports Vanguard have got no need to have their drivers fight. They need to break away and maintain the separation, because when you've got 1.5 seconds to Samuel Case Brown, the Blackout Motorsport driver, well, therefore, you're not at risk of being brought in to the tow zone, whereby Sproul will be able to gain on the straights. The slipstream extending out to about 1.2 seconds, where it's felt to a minor factor, approximately what is 7/10 and closings when you really start to build on it. And therefore, that's why we do have a bit of an analog to NASCAR style racing around here, with NASCAR using this layout on an annual basis, the Cup layout. And we do see a lot of slipstream assisted racing there when they take to the road racing course. And right now, the same with Samuel Case Brown. He's got to huff and puff here in order to try and close up to Thompson and Cope. But the problem is when he's got no tow to work with, therefore he's got to do it all under his own momentum, and that means he's got to find some magical lap time. But meanwhile, looking further down, oh my good lord, and it's even further carnage further behind here as Craig Schill, who had an absolutely brilliant start to this race, now loses all the progress gained. And I believe there may have also been another car involved in that mix. I think Didi Laming may have got picked up in that instant, as we do hear that Laming has had to be towed to the pit lane. Marcel Fritsch continues to try and hold off Lucas Romano here as they head onwards towards turn number 6, but in the long charge they go, and as they do, well, right now it's definitely been an absolutely dramatic start for so many drivers, as Lucas Romano up the inside here, all but with Stephen Lathwell, and Lathwell in a wounded car, I think not able to make too much haste right now, and therefore falling down the order very gradually. But meanwhile, from one driver who's losing out to one driver's gain, this is Paul Joseph Bliss, the Olympus Esports Titan driver, who seems to be absolutely enjoying a brilliant run of form as he makes his way onwards towards another lap. And right now, battling with Roxanne Marshall, will be across 2 different classes. But to put it in perspective, Paul Joseph Bliss has moved up to P7 in the silver class, having started P12, and therefore is making a great headway as he heads on down towards the bus stop chicane. But as he does, we look at Alex Hiscox here, going around the outside of what is Kory Lazarus, and I think Lazarus has got a problem with the car as they head onwards towards turn number 5, coming on down through the long sweeping right-hander. But everything right now does seem to be at least calming down for a moment. I think for many drivers they will appreciate this, given the drama we've seen early on. But speaking of of drama. We take a look back at what happened on the opening lap, and this was the instant that was preceded by Kory Lazarus having a little bit of a moan here through turn number 3 into 4. Now, we believe Lazarus may have made contact with the inside waterfall, but look how it upsets the field behind, and that's what kicks off the chain reaction there with regards to cars coming into contact. And in particular, as we do take a look back, we had, I believe, it may have been what was, I do believe, about to got caught up in that contact in terms of making contact with other drivers behind, as we also saw there what was the 1-2 car being able to carry forward, and then as Lazarus tried to steer clear, other drivers coming up, and it's ended in disaster. But meanwhile, what exactly happened to Philip Hammer as well? You see, most of the field was able to dodge what happened here, albeit some drivers, I think, just getting a little bit too eager to try and return to the racing. But meanwhile, we also had the instant for Philip Hammer as he made his way on through, and well, this is what happened to Philip Hammer in particular as he made his way into the bus stop chicane. As we see it all going wrong behind. Meanwhile, Hammer there under braking into the apex. The car becoming unsettled on cold brakes and tyres, and a nasty knock to the wall there. And well, the front bumper definitely being compressed. But as we return to your live racing pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll still plenty to unfold here. And well, with regards to all the battling that's playing out, we do look to Kelly Ramadan versus Lee Holmes. So they go side by side up the hill through the S's here, and Ramadan's going to try and hold the place for Somsport as they make the way on through turn number 4. I think Ramadan almost in contact with the outside wall there of 3 to the inside of 4, but as he now powers his way on down, you can see Igor Kos looking for the move of Ramadan. He's going to go to the inside. It is Kos, the FTR esports driver, known for making great moves under pressure, and making another move there versus the AT driver. And now Simon B. Bamba tries to get involved in the mix, wants to also pick up a place, but can he find it? That's the question. I don't think he can, given the fact that Ramadan, they're getting quite a bit of oversteer on power and exit. And Bamba will have the outside line here into turn number 6, and well, in the end, he does make the move on the Somsport driver and picks up P8 in the golden overall categories. But as they come through the left into right at turn 6 into 7, meanwhile, looking from them to a little bit further up the road, we get to Holmes versus Kos, and right now Kos under the intense charge of what he's wanting to get inside that top 5 if he can. Takes a little peek there versus Holmes, but Holmes not being phased by it and simply takes his natural racing line with 3.5 minutes of this race to go as they make their way out turn 1 into turn 2 and charging their way up the hill through the S's now. You see it there, Kos with that full run through the opening corner just loses out a bit of momentum as they now head on through and onwards towards the chicane once more. But charging on out here, and both drivers doing everything they can in order to carry the momentum up towards what is the next set of corners. And as they do, meanwhile, we look from them to a bit further down the order, and in particular to Philip Hammer, who's trying to make this recovery drive right now as he heads onwards towards what is the chicane. Looks like the inside of Adam Greason. And Greason here will not feel too obliged to battle here, given the fact he'll be with a driver in another class, and well, at the end of the day, he wants to hunt down Stephen Hobbs, who is only 3 places up the road from him in the battle for the silver lead. But as the drivers come on through, we do look to those alternative standings between drivers currently as they make their way on around here on the circuit. And you can see that right now it does look as though Hammer may fall a little bit short with regards to finding a way to battle on through, as we do show the individual classes as segregated from one another, starting with the gold class there, ladies and gentlemen, and that is how your gold class currently stands after what is 10 minutes of racing here, with your leaders Patrick Thompson and Thomas Coe continue to charge away and break away at a significant rate of knots as they head onwards towards what is the bus stop chicane once again here. Thompson now under increasing pressure from Coe as they have cleared some traffic in the form of Jones behind them, that being the P18 gold driver Mark Jones. And I wonder whether now Coe may be trying to set up a move going on to the next lap, will likely be a penultimate lap versus his teammate, but also rival on the circuit, as meanwhile Bamba making further progress here as we see going slowly. Lee Holmes coming out of the chicane, and I think Holmes had an off track for his misdemeanors as they come on out of the corner and head up towards turn number 6, and as they do, well, Holmes here definitely on the hunt. And well, it's going to be the fact that he's more the hunted driver now as Ramadan tries to take a peek, can't find a way on through. But as they head on out and up towards what is the penultimate lap of race here for our first race of the day. Meanwhile, we do look to Steve Hobbs, your silver class leader, and here is the FR20 Sim Racing track, and those are the silver class standings updated on the left hand side of your screen. And we can see that Hobbs right now in a bit of a world of his own, but meanwhile trying to put the pressure on is Sean Cranley Swash versus what is Cameron Smith as he looks to remove here for P5 in the silver class, what is P18 overall. And as the drivers come on through, where it's left into right, it turns 6 into 7. Well, absolutely gunning it right now is the Canadian driver, but I think for him it's going to be all about that run on the final lap as he almost makes contact with the wall on the final corner. Heading on towards another lap, not long left to go as we now do show you the updated standings with all the drivers together. Once again, the top 35, and as they make their way out of turn number 1, Sean Cranley Swash still trying to go for a move here, albeit time running out. He'll get one more lap after this one. We do believe the leaders will creep on to what will be an 11th lap before we do bring the sprint race to a close. And as Swash there looking closer and closer in the draft, can he find a way through this time? Keep in mind that Smith does have Dima for some support there in terms of slipstream, and as they make the way out for the chicane, no way this time for Swash, still trying to look for that move before all is said and done. But meanwhile, looking onto the final lap, going on to lap 11 of 11 here, it will be Patrick Thompson as he heads into turn 1 ahead of Thomas Cope. The gap between the turn 3 temps here, and I think right now it may be Thompson and Cope running formation to the end. But meanwhile, into turn 1 themselves, Holmes versus Bamber. Bamber makes the move to defend on the inside there as Holmes tries to find a long way round the outside, but Bamber not falling for the trick of a cutback, indeed parking the car nicely to defend. And as they come through the S's, well, Holmes here putting all the pressure he can on, but he's not able to find a way to extract that position of a Bamber. He's going to look to the outside as they make their way up towards the bus stop chicane, gets a nose ahead, but Bamber won't back out of this, or will he? Well, Holmes then goes a bit deep, bounces across the grass, and Bamber's made to go wide. Ramadan in return tries to cut around the outside, and Holmes there gets his elbows out for both. Bamber has gained the place, but I think he will be expected to slow down as he did cut track limits. We'll have to wait and see, but as they make the way up towards turn number 6, meanwhile heading towards the final corners, it's Thompson and a Cope, and I think here it's going to be Thompson who holds onto the line as he makes way out to the final corner. He will bring Cope's run of victories to a close, but Patrick Thompson will start his record book off with his first win in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 7 in the gold and oval categories ahead of Cope, followed by Samuel Case-Brown completes your overall gold podium ahead of James Parker, Daniel Seji P5 ahead of Igor Kos P6, Simon B. Bamber finishes P7 ahead of Lee Holmes, and then it's Khalid Ramadan P9, Nathan Foster P10 ahead of Philip Hammer, and then Steve Hobbs brings home the sprint win in the silver class, P12 overall ahead of Adam Greveson. And well, what a race for the FR20 Sim Racing teammates ahead of Chris Eddersford, who rounds off the silver podium P14. Ryan Walcott on his debut matches P15 in the end despite all the drama on the opening lap, and then it's Alex Hiscott's P16 ahead of Lee Deemer P17, Sean Cranley Swash P18, and then it will be Roxanne Marshall P19 ahead of Lucas Romano, with Marcel Fritz P21 ahead of Cameron Smith. Kory Lazarus in the end recovering a P23, but I think ruin what could have been in this first race of the day. Stephen Lathwell P24 ahead of Chris Rance, and then Paul Joseph Cliffs to finish off all the drivers who will finish on the lead lap as Cliffs losing the rear of the car there on the exit of the final corner, just misses the wall, but he will come home at P26 out of 35 cars. But as he crosses the line there, definitely a challenging race for a good number of drivers up and down the field. And well, we get 2 minutes now to take you through those standings, subject to any stewards' inquiries, before we go racing once again. Well, after what was an absolutely action-packed first race of the day here at the Watkins Glen International Circuit in Season 7 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, Round 4 saw Patrick Thompson take the win in the overall and gold classes ahead of teammate for Olympus Esports Vanguard Thomas Cope. The gap between them, 1.6 tenths in the end, and then it was a further 2 seconds or so to Samuel Case-Brown P3 for Blackout Motorsport, with a great start to his day, round off the gold podium there. P4 for James Parker ahead of Daniel Sedgley, with Igor Kos not quite able to push into the top 5, but the FTR Esports driver will start P3 on the grid for our second race of the day, and he'll be ahead of Simon Bamber and Lee Holmes, who complete your top 8, and with that, Lee Holmes at ATEC Tech will be starting on pole for the reverse grid pole position, top 8 inversion there, and therefore the ATEC Tech driver will not be too upset about the fact he finished behind Bamber when all was said and done. Khalid Ramadan just missing out on the top 8 inversion, P9 ahead of Nathan Foster, with Philip Hammer best to rest P11 and a great recovery drive after that shaky start, and then Steve Hobbs completing his run to take the silver class win there for FR20 Sim Racing ahead of teammate Adam Greveson, with Chris Edison P14 ran off the silver podium for UKSimRacing admin team. Ryan Walker P15 ahead of Alex Hiscox, who had had a difficult start to the day in qualifying, but was able to do well to move to P16 and therefore 4th place in the silver class. Then Lee Deemer, Sean Cranley-Swash, who finished off the top 5 of the silvers, ahead of Roxanne Marshall and Lucas Romano to complete the top 20 for DBR. Then at P21, Marcel Fritsch ahead of Cameron Smith, Kory Lazarus, Stephen Lafwell and Chris Rance completed a run of P25, with Paul Joseph Cliff just missing out on the top 25 there, but still a P26, and he'll be pleased with that as it has translated into a good finishing position in class. Ahead of Mark Jones, Sean Doby, and then Danny Lee and Dean Powell to compete your top 30, and then completing your 35 participants, Didi Blamey ahead of Jack Atkinson, Jeremy Story, Glenn Humberstone, and our sole retiree from the race, Craig Shill, P35, and that's where we'll start for our second race of the day. Well, those are the finishing positions, ladies and gentlemen, and now we get ready to go racing once again, as we do have just a couple more minutes before we do go to green flag conditions. And well, whilst we do have some warm-up time, our drivers all getting themselves comfortably set once more and all itching to go race, as we see James Parker making his way on down into turn number 1. And well, what a first race it was. We did have a major incident, however, that upset the balance of a good number of drivers, but despite the incident, everybody was able to carry on as expected, as best they possibly can, and those who were able to push on were able to potentially get some good results to the board, but still not the way we wanted to see things start at Watkins Glen, but it can happen here at what is the very tight road racing at Mecca of the US of A. And as we do say hello to Medbo in the YouTube chat, who says madness, the Olympus peloton just buggered off, and also to Luke Andrews 59, who says let's go FR20. Well, Luke Andrews there, of course, defended, reigning silver champion from season 6, cheer on his teammates, and we do look forward to seeing him return in what is a future instance of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup, potentially in season 8, albeit I think Andrews will be in the gold class rather than the silver class. We do look in the meantime to gold driver Lee Holmes, who definitely had to fight his way hard and fast through the order in order to be able to bring home the result he so desired. But the key thing is he'll be started on reverse grid pole for our second race of the day, and therefore he will not be too worried about that. I think if anything, he's actually going to be quite happy with the fact that the results have worked out in his favour to some extent. But as our drivers now get themselves all comfortably set here and almost ready to go, we are now only 1.5 minutes away. We're not going to quite have an opportunity to catch up with any of our drivers between now and we go racing at once more. But you can definitely argue that with regards to how things played out, it was a challenging one for so many drivers, and with that it does mean that now everyone will need to take a bit of a breather, get themselves reset and go hunting once again for that potential win. But the question on top of that will be who exactly is going to come out on top in our second and final race of today here at Watkins Glen International. Well, I think it is going to be a sure bet if Lee Holmes is able to hold the lead and try to break away as time plays out. He may feel quite comfortable with how things are looking, but then again, a good number of his rivals may have other intentions, or at least other ideas. And in the slipstream race as well, I do think we're going to see quite a sedate start once things have calmed down initially on that opening lap, and that's where we'll start to see things all build up in terms of our drivers position themselves well to go on the attack. But as time continues to trickle down here, well, what was your moment of the first race of the day? That's our question for you guys and girls in the chat right now. And if you haven't said hello already, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi for the simple reason we do not bite here at UK Sim Racing. Indeed, we're a very friendly community, and as everybody gets themselves comfortably set and ready to go, it's now time for race number 2 of the day. It's the round 5 feature coming up very shortly. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid for the second time today, this is how they line up for the round 5 feature. Lee Holmes takes reverse grid pole there for ATEC Tech ahead of UK Sim Racing admin teams Simon B. Bamber. On row number 2, it's Igor Kos and Daniel Sedgley, followed up by James Parker and Samuel K. Sproul. Now on row at number 4, it's Thomas Coe and Patrick Thompson, with Olympus Esports Vanguard looking to make it a 1-2 once again in this race. Khalid Ramadan starts off our 5th row for Solomon Sport ahead of Empire Motorsports Nathan Foster, with row at number 6 going to Philip Hammer and Steve Hobbs. Then starting P13 on row at number 7, it's Adam Greason, joined by fellow silver driver Chris Eddersford. They'll be charging down Steve Hobbs, there's no doubt about that. And then Ryan Walker starts off our 8th row of the grid ahead of Alex Hiscox, with Lee Deemer and Sean Cranny-Swash on row number 9. And your top 20 is completed by Roxanne Marshall and Lucas Romano. Then on row at number 11, it's Marcel Fritsch and Cameron Smith, with Kory Lazarus and Stephen Lafford behind on row number 12. And then row 13 is comprised of Chris Rance and Paul Joseph Glist, with what is there Mark Jones and Sean Doby then line up together. But it's time for us to go racing, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to suspend the grid, and it is, without further ado, 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for our second race of the day. It's time for the 30-minute feature, and Lee Holmes gets a great start, but look at Bamboo gets a better start as they come down towards turn number 1. It's a battle on the brakes here into 90 right, and Holmes is going to defend harder as he makes Bamboo have to work it around the outside on cold tyres and cold brakes. But as it's a drag race up the hill, Bamboo tucks in immediately, and look at Kos behind. Kos knows where the momentum's at, and he needs to be in the toe of both of the drivers as they make the way up the hill. But meanwhile, we had a major incident further back, which we will take a look at very shortly, as it's gone very wrong for the second half of the field, with a lot of drivers coming together. But the lead top 10 are charging away here as they make the way into the bus stop chicane, and Will Holmes defending hard versus Bamber as they come on through. It does look as though Holmes there able to plug the gaps and make sure that Bamber cannot make headway at the start of this race. Albeit right now, if I was in the position of Bamber, I'd feel as I just want to tuck him. But meanwhile, falling out of sorts there, James Parker, who goes wide through the outer loop corner, and as they head down towards turn number 6, you see contact there. Oh, goodness me, and it's gone wrong between him and Sprout, as Sprout once again falls foul at the start of the race. Sprout in the middle of the road now, and meanwhile Parker with damage to the car. I think we'll have to worry about that, as meanwhile Sprout just there as another driver gets it wrong. That's Lucas Romano, who's made contact with all the car rolls, and he gets it pointed back in. Sprout just sits there, hoping that everybody will slow down in time and take evasive action, and looks like most do. But meanwhile, after one lap of racing in another dramatic start here at Watkins Glen, it's Lee Holmes who leads ahead of Simon Bamber P2, Igor Kos P3, Daniel Senchi P4, Thomas Cope P5 ahead of Patrick Thompson P6, Kelly Ramadan P7 ahead of Philip Hammer P8. And well, you can see there the gap between Ramadan and Hammer, but Hammer will bring that gap down as quickly as he possibly can. And there's James Parker P9, Nathan Foster P10, and then P11 is your silver class leader Alex Hiscox, who's made a lot of progress in this race. In fact, he's gained 13 places in the class since the start, and how that's happened, well, we'll take a look back very shortly. But meanwhile, as they make the way on down, well, we are hearing that Bamber's lost out versus Kos in the run to the bus stop chicane, but we can see Marcel Fritsch versus Kory Lazarus, and Lazarus gaining the place on Fritsch there, trying to recover now in P13, overall P11 in the gold class. But in terms of the biggest gainers or losers on that open lap, well, in particular, Kory Lazarus making plenty of headway, and Jeremy Story, well, that is definitely one of the biggest gains there, 18 places gained, having started from down in P33. The Top Gear Sim Racing driver absolutely charges way on through, and right now in the number 584 car, trying to make further progress. He's up to P3 in the silver class, ahead of Chris Rance, and Rance all over the back of him as they make the way through turns at 6 and 7. As they come out to the left into right here, it does look as though for Story right now keeping the momentum on the American flag, flying high there on the car for also the American driver, given the fact it's one of his home races of the season. And as he comes down towards turn number 1, he's got the pressure building from Rance, but Rance there on the attack, but not quite able to find a way through currently. But whilst we're looking at the biggest gain in the field, perhaps the biggest loser of them all in terms of losing places, Samuel Gainsborough losing out on that open lap, having to park the car and hold it between turns 5 and 6, and then just waiting for drivers to potentially evade his stationary car, and indeed most being able to do so comfortably. And well, that's credit to Sprout for holding the brakes when at the end of the day others may not. But as they make the way on to what is the bus stop chicane here, Story still holding on versus Rance, but further back we've got Eddersford trying now to get himself back in the fight. Richie inside the fight for what was a potential top 3 in the silver class, and now he's got to do it the hard way, as has Hobbs, to be fair. Both of these drivers heavily impacted. Hiscox really benefiting from the chaos of the open lap, and well, speaking of that chaos, we'll get a replay of it very shortly as to what exactly happened at the start in the mid portion of the field all the way through to the back. But as James Parker comes into the pit lane due to damage on the car, Edison here still trying to pick his way past Hobbs, but Hobbs having none of it. But Hobbs is going to have some of it now as they make the way into turn number 7, goes wide at 6. Edison looks around the outside, and as we ride on board here with the triple weight driver, he's going to do it the hard way. He's forced into the barrier there, and well, I think as Hobbs got the power down, he ends up with a tank slapper, and Edison really been in the right place at the wrong time in order to end up in contact. The UKSimRacing admin team driver will not be too pleased about that at all, as Roxanne Marshall for 24-hour punting team will make her way on through. But right now, Eddersford has lost even further ground, as meanwhile at the front of the field, we've got a battle here for the lead between Lee Holmes and Igor Kos. Kos on the inside, he's been trying to make this move for some time, and Holmes has been sent wide, and down into the boot goes Holmes, and Igor Kos carries on. Well, there, I think Holmes trying to hold his way around the outside, and the two drives rubbing together as they come through turn 6 into 7. Well, Lee Holmes right now has had to be towed to the pits, given the fact he cannot recover the car from where he's gone off. And meanwhile, Igor Kos leads this race, and as he charges down towards turn number 1, 5 minutes this race complete, 25 minutes still to go of it. And well, we have seen plenty of action and drama so far, and given the fact we haven't even completed the third of the race, let alone half distance, I would imagine that we would hopefully see things calm down a little bit right now, as Thomas Cope meanwhile says, I'm not going to calm down, I'm going for gold here. And as he looks up the inside of what is Simon Bamber through the S's, gets the move done there, and Bamber backs off as they head onwards towards the bus stop chicane. As they charge away on out, the drivers now all forming into line. You can see this run of the top 7 gold and overall, and then a bit further back Nathan Foster, but meanwhile Daniel Sedgley going up the inside there of Bamber going into the chicane. So right now Linden Seasports are running 2, 3, 4 behind Kos, and are trying to essentially, I think, work together here in order to take the top 3 and then break off into the distance. But can they do so? That's the question. As meanwhile a bit further back, Rance still trying to work his way past Story. He just cannot find the UKSimRacing UK driver, and Story really making his car as wide as possible as these two battle hard for P3 in the silver class. But speaking of those class positions, we do try to present to you the class standings, and here is the silver class currently as we can see it on screen, and you can see up there France doing everything he can in order to charge on. But as he makes his way in towards turn number 6, right now it does look as though the silver class driver here under a bit of pressure from Danny Lee behind, and Lee very eager to also get himself involved in the fight as they head up towards turn number 1. But heading down into the race zone very shortly. It's going to be nose to tail between them for some time, albeit we can see how Lee is encroaching here, and I think very eager to get involved in this battle. But as they exit the corner and onwards towards turns 2, 3 and 4, right now it's going to buy Story some time to be able to breathe and regroup in terms of making his charge after Sean Crowley Swash, who is the best part of what is 7 seconds up the road, in fact 6.5 seconds, and closely it would seem for Story versus Swash. But as they all head down towards the chicane this time, will we see Lee look for the move? He does indeed, but he has to back off there. He can't seem to find any headway at the moment. But meanwhile, looking for them to a bit further back behind, we see in the gold class here, this is Jack Atkinson versus Roxanne Marshall. The UKSimRacing Admin team drive goes up the inside there to take P16 in the gold class as they make the way on through and down towards turn number 5, and coming through the long right hand here of the outer loop corner. Keep in mind that the length of the circumference of this corner is actually extended, given the fact we've not used the boot layout, which we normally see our drivers break down the hill, but instead they make the way back of themselves down all the way out towards turn number 6. Atkinson making that fast count. I think they both, Atkinson and Marshall, are keen to chase after the Scotsman of Ryan Walker as they head in towards turn number 7. We're going through the right hander and onwards towards turn number 1 they go once again. Meanwhile, Jeremy Story under pressure here, your silver class driver, as he makes his way on through, and as he heads up towards turns 2, 3 and 4, Lee down the back of him, Rance there still, and I think Rance and Lee cannot decide who wants to be the leader too, so Story is being bought some time here as they head up towards the stretch towards the bus stop chicane. Meanwhile, also, this is playing out. We can see the top 7 overall are all still together, albeit Igor Kos trying to break away slightly, but again, keeping in mind the tyres on these cars only last somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 minutes in terms of their prime, and then they fall off a sharp cliff. I would imagine that Kos right now is being made to exhaust his tyres in order to try and break away, and therefore he'll probably fall back into the float of Thompson, Cope, Sedgley, Bamber, Ramadan and Hammer very shortly, for the simple reason he'll want that tyre life to go hunting to the end of the race in terms of bringing home that potential win. But meanwhile, a bit further back, we see Diddy Devalaming looking for P5 in at the silver class versus Cameron Smith as they make the way into turn 6. Looks up the inside, can't quite find it. In fact, overextends the apex slightly, and therefore Smith is able to stay safe as they come out to the right hander at turn in number 7. And as we ride on board here with the Deep Elbow McChange driver back in the tow once again, 3.5 tenths they head towards the timeline, if that, and now going in towards turn number 1. On to the race they go, and as they do, it does look as though Smith here close, but not quite close enough for Devalaming to have a look at as they now head up towards the S's. And this scenario for the Belgian driver, what he's really got to do is pick the place where he's going to be stronger than Smith on the run out to the next couple of corners. If he makes an overtake now into the chicane and then finds himself too close to with Smith behind him, then Smith will just come back up in the next long run. So So therefore he's got to pick the right place to make this count. You can see there the Blaming backing off as they make the way on through the chicane. I think this is where he's going to go for it. It's going to be the run out of our loop into turn 6, and if he can get the run, he's going to try and sling it round with a nice late apex here, build up all the speed he can, but he overcooks it slightly there with the dirty air of Smith's car, and therefore the gap actually opens up to 7 tenths. But the point being, if Blaming can find a way in order to get close and make the overtake at the right time, then he may be able to use his pace to charge off before Smith can come back at him on a later set of corners or the next straight. As our drivers make the way on through here, we still need to take a look back at what happened at the start of this race, and now we do have the opportunity to do so, and we'll hear is a replay of the race start. Our drivers have got underway at the beginning of the race, everybody getting the launch. In fact, we look a little bit further up the field here to Sean Crandy Swash, who was battling at the time with Lee Deemer in the run down towards turn 1. Deemer on the inside into the braking zone. All our drivers win initially, and well, how did it play out from here is the big question. Well, Sean Crandy Swash is going to come into the scene the instant shortly. Looks as though there's a free wide going into the S's. We lose it on our camera shot there, and it's one of the FR20 sim racing cars that goes around. It's the 54, it would seem, and the 7, its teammate being collected. So in terms of cars, Adam Greason getting caught up, and that's what seems to set off the chain reaction of drivers all being caught up in that instant. And we take a further look back at that from Greason, who was at the time on the inside of Chris Eddersford. In fact, was that Eddersford there? We're not quite sure. I don't think it was Chris Eddersford, in fact. In fact, it is Chris Eddersford. We can confirm that was Eddersford's car. So the two of them battling into the S's, and neither one wanting to back out, and therefore that set off the reaction initially, and then things got a little bit more hectic as they made the way out of the S's and onto what was the straight here, heading up towards the bus stop chicane, although for the most part it does look as though things were much more sedate there, and that explains why we have had a significant gap in our field created in the opening lap of this race, albeit the majority of the leading gold drivers able to charge off to the distance, and then the silver drivers all being shaken up behind with that instant, and well, that explains how Alex Hitchcock was able to pick his way through and take the lead of the silver class. But as we look to Dean Bellamy, he's fallen behind Smith for the time being, and therefore will try and come back in due course. But looking from them back up to the very front of the field, here is Igor Kos, the FTR esports driver, who continues to lead this race. Head of Thompson, Cope, Seji, Bamba, Hammer and Ramadan, with this top 7 being separated by 3 seconds in all, albeit I think Hammer and Ramadan both falling off the pace slightly as they make the way up through, particularly Ramadan there you can see just started to fall away, but Kos here going on to lap number 11, side by side into the break-ins over 90 right, and Thompson thinks about this. Kos turns in, there's contact between the two of them, and well, Kos there turning in only to find there was a car alongside. I think Patrick Thompson would argue, I was already there, thank you very much. Kos would argue, well, I've got to turn in at some point, and I think a bit of a disagreement between the two drivers. Meanwhile, it's all gone wrong between Olympus Esports to try with Thompson into the wall there after contact with Cope. So there's even further drama, and the Olympus Esports Vanguard driver ends up with the misery of his teammate falling out of the order. Indeed, that may be a tow to the pits for Thompson if he can't get that car running. But it's drama as we reach what is the second third of this race, and as Cope makes his way on through turn number 5. Right now, that's not the way anybody wants it to happen, particularly between two teammates, we should say. And now the number 64 driver here finds himself leading the pack, albeit I think with a fault in his mind in terms of I've just had my teammate end his race in front of me, and it's not the way he's wanted it to go. But as they make the way through turn 6 into Sarah Seji and Hammer now closing up as they make the way on towards the next lap. And as they do, we take a look back at what exactly happened there between the leaders. This was Thompson versus Cope as they made the way on through the S's, and the tiniest bit of contact there between Thompson and Cope. Initially, it looked as though it was netco contact, then translated into contact between the two cars. Very hard to tell, but Patrick Thompson, the Flying Dane, absolutely coming off the worst you could there. And as he does get the car pointed the right way, he has subsequently driven the car back home to the pit lane. But as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and say hello to Navarro Dabova in the YouTube chat, and good evening to Navarro. I hope you're doing well. We do look to our leaders here who carry on, and now it's gone from a battle of what is the top 6 to the top 5. Khaled Ramadan getting it slightly wrong, coming out of the chicane and extending his run into turn 5 there, and I think just missed his braking point. And when you go onto the grass, well, these tyres do lose their grip quite easily, and Ramadan now trying to calm the car back down before he goes racing once more. as they make the way in towards turn number 6. Igor Kos now trying to get back into that top 4 fight. He is P5 and the FTR Esports driver. I think incensed after what's happened, but he'll keep his calm and carry on as best he possibly can. But meanwhile, it's not just about the battle at the front of the field between the gold drivers. We've also got growing battles in the midfield between our silver leaders, including Chris Rance, who's still trying to find his way past Jeremy Story as they make the way into turn 6 and 7. And well, this battle has been brewing for some time as we ride on board and look back from the 3rd place silver driver here. And well, Story gets a bit wrong the exit at turn number 7. You can see there a bit of hesitancy. He tries to get on the throttle, but as he heads down towards 90 right onto turn 1, he's going to make Rance look around the outside. Rance does so here as they break the one through, but will it work out for Story? Yes, it will for now, as Dima starts to get close here, and Rance may find himself having to play a bit more rear guard action now rather than forward facing as they head up through the S's. And Rance is going to have to take a wide line through the first part of the S's, and that's going to cost him all the speed going into turn 3. And as they power the way through 4 now, Story does have a gold driver of Lee Dima between himself and Rance, and that will give him some safety and breathing room in the battle for what is P3 in the silver class. Meanwhile, Dean Powell trying to hold up Mark Jones in the battle for P12 in the gold class, P17 overall. And as these two make the way down for turn number 5, well, they're both absolutely trying to hustle right now to go hunting afterwards Lee Dima, but in return they've got to play Cameron Smith and Chris Rance first. Well, Smith is close up to Rance to a degree as Rance tries to come back versus Story, and in fact here it looks like Dima's going to do the work for Rance as Story under pressure as they come into turn 6 as he exits the corner. Dima and Rance here still side by side, but Dima defends there the Welshman as the fix all to Aberdare. 68 car tries to make progress and he wants to steer clear of Rance and Smith because at the end of the day he doesn't want the pressure of what is Powell behind. But look at Cameron Smith on the left of your picture into the break, his own Powell as well. They're going to go 3 wide initially under break, and this is Smith looking for the move versus Rance to take P4 in the silver class. What is P15 overall? And as they head through the S's right now, well, side by side up the hill they begin their journey. I think they're going to go into one line very shortly for the simple reason there's only one racing line through there, and to be offline is to find yourself on the marbles and in potential risk of hitting the wall, as we've seen the number of drives find out today. And as Smith makes his way on the straight, he's taking the place of Rance, and Rance is going to try and come back at him with Dean Powell holding off Mark Jones. Oh goodness me, it's gone wrong there for Rance. Rance goes straight on, and he catches the car just in time, prevents it from making its way to the barrier. As the driver makes his way on to the circuit once again, going in to turn number 5. It does look like the UKSimRacing UK driver absolutely right now frustrated by the fact every time he's tried to make a move, he's tried to make an overtake, it's just not worked out. Instead he's found himself falling further and further back into the gold drivers behind. But as he heads up towards turn number 6, meanwhile behind him Ryan Walker side by side with Adam Greaveson, and I think Walker trying to make progress around Greaveson here, around the outside to the outside of turn 7, but Greaveson's going to hold the line outside of turn number 7 now and gets the plays back. Now Parker's going to say, okay, it's my turn, Walker, here I come. And the iRacing DCW Racing driver goes up the inside here under braking into 90 right, and as he does so, this will be for P23, what is there, 15 in the gold class, and Walker makes the move count, and Parker I should say makes the move count as Walker goes wide and gets a little bit of oversteer on Power as he falls off of the exit curb and onwards towards turn number 4 they charge. And as they make the way on towards the second half of this lap very shortly, meanwhile we do look to the very front of the field, and as we do, here is your race leader of Thomas Cope, who right now continues to hold on versus Sedgley and then Hammer behind, and Igor Kos, with fact Simon Bamba is in P4, Igor Kos a bit further back by 1.4 seconds, but the top 4 have definitely broken away. As we say hello to Jeremy DeBova in the YouTube chat, and well tuned in from his vacation and keeping an eye on, I suppose, on what's happening in the silver class. Well, it definitely has been a day of drama in both classes here, albeit a familiar face now leads at the front of the field in the former Cope with Sedgley behind, and then Hammer and Bamba completely top 4 ahead of Igor Kos B5, and Kos still trying to close up, albeit with the fact he's got no toe to work with here, it is going to be a challenge, and therefore you'll be hoping that the top 4 start to squabble before this race is over. We're going on through the chicane right now because it's all about just keeping these laps coming as best he possibly can, and he will have to take some life out of the tyres and the fuel tank in order to do so. Meanwhile, looking further back, We see here Cameron Smith all over the back of Lee Deemer, as right now Smith very eager to make haste to chase down what will be the next silver driver, Sean Cranley Swash, but as they come into the chicane, Deemer defends on the inside, contact between Cameron Smith and Deemer. Deemer gets the car stopped, albeit a lock up there, and well, what exactly has happened to Smith? Smith has carried on, albeit to run very wide at turn number 5, most likely to get the car stopped off the straight line in the chicane, so therefore drama for both Lee Deemer and Cameron Smith, the two drivers coming together, but now as they both try to restore their races, it does release DDD Valami into P4 in the silver class, P16 overall, and as they come through the left-hander of turn number 6 into 7, right now D Valami will know, much like the drivers before him, that making his way past the gold drives is going to be a challenge in of itself as he charges his way up towards turn number 1. As he heads down towards the braking zone here, where it is now going to be also about a call for calm for a good number of drivers. They won't want too much drama given the fact tyre life is now starting to fade away on a good number of their machines. And as they head up towards turns 2, 3 and 4, where it may be only a 7-corner circuit, but with the extension of the apex of a good number of these corners, with them being sweepers and going up through with hard load on the left-hand side tyres in particular for such a long time, with this circuit I should say being clockwise, which does mean drivers will be feeling as though those left side tyres will be taking a bruising, and nobody expects to make a pit stop for tyres here, so it's all about time management. As meanwhile we look a bit further back to with James Parker versus Greason, and Greason trying to go around the outside of Parker to defend into the bus stop chicane, and does so as meanwhile we have had a change of leader, and that's Thomas Cope being passed and a free wide into turn 1 by Daniel Sedgey and Philip Hammer. But now Hammer finds himself in between the two Olympus Esports drivers, and as they head up the hill through turn 2 into 3, we jump aboard with Cope here, who's trying to recover. Now is this a tactical move here from Cope to drop down the order, so that way he's in the tow towards the end, where you can see as they make their way past Paul Joseph Bliss, who backs off there respecting the blue flags. All the lead group right now of Sedgey, Hammer, Cope, Hammer and Kos are all separated together by what is 1.5 seconds between the 5 drivers, and as they come down into turn number 5 on outer loop, we're riding right in the middle of the quintuplet as they make their way on turn number 5 on towards 6 they go, and you can see just how wide they're running out the corner to try and maximise exit speed. They're getting so close to putting the left hand side wheels on the grass there, and that's in the straight line right into the safety barrier as they make their way through the left into right here to complete the lap. Will Cope right now absolutely, I think, trying to push back after losing the places, and well, how did it happen is the big question. This is very shortly how we're going to see a replay of how the move was made. Was they made their way out of turn at number 7. You can see Cope there getting a good run off the corner, but Sedgey and Hammer just absolutely bolstered by the tow. Sedgey going for the move, Hammer coming through with him and trying to make it through in the middle, but Sedgey gaining the place and Hammer just following up the order. And that's how the move was made, to see Daniel Sedgey take the lead with Hammer behind and then Cope P3. We can see Bamber versus Kos, Igor Kos here with the pace to potentially take the win in this race if he can find his way on through. But Hammer looking around the outside of Sedgey into the bus stop chicane, can't find it. Bamber meanwhile lets Kos go. I think they're respecting the fact that Kos may be faster at this point, and Bamber eager to try and save a bit of the car for the very late stage of this race as he comes on down through turn number 5 and in towards 6 they roll. But as they come through this time around, keep in mind that Khalid Ramadan is currently 4.4 seconds off of them as I try to charge the way through, and we show you the gold class stands on the left hand side of your screen here to give you an idea how close that top 5 is and how the rest of the field is a long way away in terms of being in that respective battle, albeit we say that one battle that is brewing outside of the top 10 of the gold class. It's for what is effectively the final spot to be at best of the rest, P11. It's Mark Jones here versus Dean Powell, and this battle has really been building to a crescendo over the last 5 to 6 laps, with these two inseparable on pace and being condensed together by a whole array of silver drives in front and behind them. As they go through the left into right here and towards the end of what for them is lap number 19 to go on to 20 very shortly. Will Jones is still not quite able to find a way in order to break the deadlock here, but meanwhile we look to Jeremy Story, and Story here defending hard as Powell looks to go round the outside. I think Story at this point may be wise to let this go. I mean, DDD blaming is the best part of 1.5 seconds back as we see there Jones ready to go overly deep, and with that that's going to cost him a run as also Glenn Humberstone picks his way through, who's a lap down. So Humberstone right now just trying to get a bit of time back in the race, but Story here with Powell all over the back of him as they make their way onto the stretch up towards the chicane. as they head on through towards the braking zone here. Story's going to defend. He wants to keep gold drivers between him and what is the charge of DDD Bellamy in P4 in the class behind, as you see them on the camera shot. But meanwhile, Powell very eager to try and gain ground in order to go hunting after gold drivers up the road. But it does look as though the two drivers have got different ideas compared to what each other want as they make the way through. And DDD Bellamy here picks his way past Humberstone. Humberstone being a lap down, as we say, so therefore respecting the blue flags when the time's right. And Will Bellamy has not got too much space given the fact that we do have Cameron Spear just behind and Atkinson between the two of them. So we do have an overlay between our classes drivers as they make the way onwards towards another lap. But Bellamy goes deep there, and as he does so, well, with that in mind, Bellamy right now under pressure here from Atkinson as Smith pushes Atkinson along. Smith very eager for Atkinson and make this count. He's going to make it 3 wide. It's going to be bold from Smith. He goes all in on the brakes. He managed to get stopped just in time. Bellamy goes wide and deep. Atkinson takes the two of them, but Smith importantly takes the place for what is affecting P17 overall, but more importantly P4 in the silver class in perhaps the most non-traditional way of overtaking a 90 right, but still Smith has found a way to do it. And now as they make the way onto the straight up towards the bus stop chicane, will can Smith find a way to hold up to Bellamy as they head in towards the braking zone? Bellamy looks through, but he hasn't got the overspeed to do so, so Smith does hold the position for now as they head on towards the outer loop corner. 5 minutes still remaining, plenty of laps to go. And we're once again seeing the fight start to materialise in amongst our drivers. But meanwhile, still this is playing out. We can tell you towards the front of the field that Philip Hammer and Thomas Cope have traded places, and Hammer in particular has dropped down to P3, Cope's back up to P2, and now Hammer's got Kos behind him as the two drivers, both from Germany, make the way up towards the S's and through. And right now Kos very eager, I think, to gain another place here as they head on through towards the chicane. Now with Igor Kos closing, Kos will be thinking about where can he go for this move in order to get ahead of Hammer, but at the same time not disrupt the toe off of the back of the Olympus Esports drivers. Well, I think turn number 6 may be the opportune place to do it, but he'll need Hammer to be relatively compliant if he's going to try and go for it. Albeit now we are in that stage of the race where drivers will be thinking more about defending position rather than trying to work together unless they feel as though they can make a last gasp. And you see Kos there going onto the racing line, then taking a little bit of sneak peek into turn 6, trying to get Hammer to more and more in his rear view mirror rather than in front of him. So I think right now Hammer and Kos are starting to enter a battle of their own, and well, if they enter this too soon, then Cope essentially may be able to break away before the day is done and be able to make it a 1-2 for Olympus Esports, or not be it for the same Olympus Esports team, if you will, with the Titan driver ahead of the Vanguard driver, but still it will be a 1-2 for the team as a whole, and therefore they'll be very pleased with that across the sister teams as Hammer continues to try and keep Kos at bay. But as we ride on board and look back from the rear of Hammer's car, you see Kos getting closer and closer, and as they come through the S to turn number 3, well, now it is going to be Kos who looks for the move here as he in fact gives a bit of a bump draft to the back of Hammer, saying to Hammer, no, I need you to be part of this fight. And as they come on down, well, it's going to be the 64 of Cope that defends the inside to cover off Sedgley as they come on through the chicane. Kos backs off there, lets Hammer take the natural line. Meanwhile, further back, Kory Lazarus has just found his way past Khalid Ramadan for P6 of the golden overall class, but as they make the way through the outer loop, meanwhile behind them Danny Lee passes Alex Hiscox for P9. Hiscox won't mind that, he's your silver class leader. All that matters to him is taking that class win, with the fact he does currently have a gap of 4.3 seconds to Sean Cranley Swash behind. But as they come on down through what is their turn number 5 on towards turn 6 and 7, well, Hiscox right now doing everything in his power just to bring home this result and letting all the overall places go if it gives him safety and bring it over that silver week. So it's going to mean a lot to him given the fact he missed out in qualifying, and now he's turning the tables completely around with a brilliant sprint race, and this has been followed up by an absolutely masterful drive in the feature. But as he heads up towards turn number 1 now for what is going to be one of the last times today, we have got approximately another 3 laps to go, including the lap he's just gone on to. All the battling further behind between Mark Jones and Dean Powell is not over. In fact, Jones has found his way past Powell quite recently as they all battle with Story, and Story right now still not letting anybody through. Jerry Story absolutely adamant that he is going to keep all these gold drivers behind him as Atkinson now gets into the medley here as we ride on board with Atkinson heading up through the S's here, and this is very close for comfort as they come through right into left into right, and you can see Story at the head of his pack. Well, he's absolutely loving the battling. I think these gold drivers will all have a word to say to him in the paddock afterwards in terms of him defending so hard, but still his story's right to do so if he so desires. And as they make the way up through the chicane here, with Powell, Jones and Atkinson all battling for P11 in the gold class, it won't be worth any points per se, but for them it's all about pride on the line. And as they come through the long right of outer loop, coming towards what will be their penultimate lap of racing shortly. Well, Atkinson is still there, but not quite close enough to try and go on the offensive. As meanwhile, Story defends hard at the front of this group into turn number 6. And I think those tyres on Story's car have seen better days, and he is running out of rubber to burn. But at the same time, he is digging in every which way as he heads onto what will be his penultimate lap on lap number 25. As they head down towards turn number 1. Meanwhile, we look to your leaders here, and it's getting very close into the chicane this time around. Sedgwick ahead of Cope with Hammond and Kos, both trying to find their way on through. And as they cover down through turn number 5, well, Sedgwick right now backing everybody up, it would seem, given the fact he's got no toe, whereas everybody else has. Everyone runs wide as well there. It's going to be who's going to dip the tyre onto the grass on exit and goes wide at this point, given the fact they're all trying to pick up extra speed. Was they cover into turn 6 and 7. We're going to stay with this lead battle now to the end of the race. Simon B. Bamber a further 2.6 seconds behind. He can't really get involved at this point, but Hammer in P3 I think is now saving everything up. So is Igor Kos in P4. They head on to the final lap. It'll be the 26th time they charge around in the speed chase, and the final time today at Watkins Glen's Cup circuit. And as they come down into turn 1, Sergi holds the lead across the line, but now he's got to get a good exit here in hope that he's going to be able to hold off Cope, and with it Hammer and Kos will trip over one another behind Cope as they make the way up through the S's here. Hammer now starting to build momentum on the rival of Cope. Cope here still trying to defend, I think trying to act as the rear guard to make it, and Olympus Esports 1-2. Hammer looks left, he can't find it, he looks right, he can't find it. Cope covers the inside line. Meanwhile, Sedgwick in the middle of the road. Hammer looks to the outside, and as they come on the braking, Kos cannot find a way into this fight either. The two German drivers right now both waiting. Hammer's really being required to lead the initiative as Kos bounces off the exit curve. He drops a wheel right, that's going to cost him some speed. And as they make the way down through 5 and onwards towards 6, it's still Sedgwick ahead of Cope as they roll on out. Hammer's a long way back at this point. 3.5 tenths will seem like a lifetime as they charge on through. And as they head up towards turn 6, Sedgwick still holds on as they come through the left-hander. One more corner to go, and it could be his first win in a while for Sedgwick. But as he comes on through the right-hander, it looks like it's all going to come to fruition. The checker flag waves, and it will be Daniel Sedgwick who takes his first win of the season in Season 7 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup. Your winner in the round 5 feature at Watkins Glen ahead of Cope and Hammer, with Kos just missing out on the podium. And then it will be Simon Bamber P5 ahead of Kory Lazarus P6, Khalid Ramadan P7, Nathan Foster P8. Danny Lee will come through very shortly to take P9 as he crosses the line, and it'll be Marcel Fritsch P10. But you can see a car shaking from left to right in the distance. It's Alex Hiscock who takes his first silver class win of the season for Team Wales in an astounding race, and Sean Cranley's watch will come home P2 in the silver class for 24-hour Punty people, ahead of Jeremy Story, who holds off the gold train behind him to round off the silver podium, and of Mark Jones, Jack Atkinson and Dean Powell, with Cameron Smith P4 in the silver class, P17 overall. Chris Edison does well to recover to P5 in the silver class in the end for UKSimRacing admin team, ahead of James Parker, DDD Blaming completion top 20, Patrick Thompson P21 ahead of Adam Greason, with Chris Rance P23, Ryan Walker P24, Sean Dowie P25, and completing at P9 in the silver class ahead of Lee Deemer, with then Samuel Casebrow P27 ahead of Steve Hobbs, and I believe Steve Hobbs will be your final finisher on the lead lap. And for FR20 Sim Racing, that'll be a P10 in the silver class there, with a multitude of drivers retiring or finishing a lap down. And those that finished the lap down included Glenn Humberstone, Paul Joseph Clist and Stephen Lathwell. But my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what a second race of the day. We thought race number 1 was dramatic, and I think our drivers decided they went all in for it. But Daniel Sedgwick in the end, with an absolutely brilliantly driven and controlled race, able to hold on to take the win ahead of teammate Cope, and will with that the Olympus Esports Titan driver taking his first win of the season, and deciding to park it up at the start for this straight to do some donuts, I reckon, with the fuel he's got remaining and also the tyres he's got remaining in the car. But absolutely pleased with that. And meanwhile, Alex Hiscox with his first win of the season, the silver class, coming all the way through the field after what was a dismal qualifying session where he started from the back of the field for the sprint race. Well, that's why you never give up, and the Team Wales driver demonstrating that. Meanwhile, a difficult race for Jack Atkinson for UKSimRacing admin team, not able to find his way through despite the battle with Mark Jones and Dean Powell. But what was it? Jeremy Story was putting the cork in the bottle, and nobody could find a way to make their way on through in the end. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, And with Seji burning those rear tyres off the back of the number 29 car, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here are the results. Now, keep in mind, these results are subject to stewards' inquiries, but in round number 5 of the UK SimRacing Porsche Cup Season 7, being the feature race here today at Watkins Glen International's Cup layout circuit, we can see Daniel Seji taking the win for Olympus Esports Titan by 2 attempts at the end over Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports Vanguard driver, just missing out, but still, I think, a little bit worried about the fact after that contact with teammate Patrick Thompson, it's not the way anybody wanted it to go at a very unfortunate moment. But still P2 for Cope, and it does mean his run of wins comes to an end here today in the United States of America, but still 3 wins on the bounce to start of the season. It's no mean feat, and Philip Hammer P3 there for Team Germany, battling to a great podium finish, but I do wonder whether he feels as though there could have been a bit more in the tank. Igor Kos P4 there for FTR Esports, just missing out on the podium, but still in a great race today, and therefore a great pair of races, we should say. We expect plenty more from the 285 driver as the season goes on. And Simon B. Bamba round off the top 5 there for UKSimRacing admin team, head of Kory Lazarus for Blackout Motorsport, who had a difficult race number 1, but a better race number 2 to talk about, with Khalid Ramadan P7 for SomSport and falling off the pace towards the end of the race. Quite unfortunate for the SomSport driver, but still he'll look into that and see where things went wrong. Nathan Foster P8 for Empire Motorsport, 8.7 seconds off of the race winner in a relatively quiet day for the Empire Motorsport driver, but still that quietness and consistency paid dividends in the end. And then Daniel Lee and Marcel Fritsch completed your top 10 there, an all-gold top 10 overall, and behind the Team Germany driver P11, best the rest overall and taking his first silver class win of the season. Alex Hiscox there for Team Wales, was 5 seconds clear of Sean Cranley-Swash. Another drive to a podium there for the 24-hour Punty People driver. His wait goes on for his first win in class in his UK SimRacing Porsche Cup career, but still Cranley-Swash definitely showing the credentials to take a win in the near future. He's just got to find that final step. Jeremy Story completing the silver podium there with P13 for Top Gear Sim Racing in a brilliantly good amount of battling with his gold rivals of Mark Jones, Jack Atkinson and Dean Powell behind, and Cameron Swift also finding himself embroiled in that battle, the privateer ahead of Chris Eddersford. And then completing the top 20, James Parker and DDD Blaming, with the DBR by Challenge driver not quite able to find his way through in the end to finish inside the top 5 in the silver class, but still a P6 in silver and 9. That it's been a good shine today, and therefore he has got plenty of potential to make further progress as the season carries on. Patrick Thompson, P21 in the end after that difficult instant through the S's with his teammate Thomas Cope, and then Adam Greaves at P22 for FR20 Sim Racing, 5 seconds clear of Chris Rance, with both drivers there who were tipped to be potential race winners in the silver class win both races. Unfortunately, it did not materialise for either of them in the second race of the day. And then Ryan Walker and Sean Dowie completing the top 25, with Lee Deemer P26 at Samuel K. Sproul, Steve Hobbs P28, and then completing your top 30, a lap down, 8 tip races Glenn Hummerstone, and 2 laps down Paul Joseph Clist. P21, Stephen Lathwell there for CS Sim Racing UK, our final finisher of the race, 2 laps down albeit. And then with our retirements, we did have Craig Shield 13 laps in the end, Roxanne Marshall 15 laps in the end, Lucas Romano 17 laps in the end, and I do believe all of these drivers will be classified as non-finishers as they did not complete half the race distance. And what was Lee Holmes retiring 22 laps in the end, indeed only make it 4 laps. But still a difficult race for some, but for many a great race out there, and well for us in the commentary booth, and I hope for you guys and girls at home an absolutely fantastic and fascinating pair of races. But do keep in mind we've still got plenty more to come here today. In fact, all the racing may have concluded at the Watkins Glen International circuit, but we still got our post-round interviews coming up in approximately 15 minutes time. But before we go away for our interviews, we'd just like to remind you that if you are enjoying the racing and wondering how you can support UK Sim Racing, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, including Swillow Med, Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and Demon Tweaks. And also, all new as of this week, we do now have a new affiliation with SRC Driver Academy. And if you want to be able to potentially capitalise on a number of discount codes which are available through our affiliates. Indeed, as a consumer, you might be looking to get some sim racing coaching or some sim racing hardware. Well, the first thing you need to do is go to our official website, and that's uksimracing.co.uk, which you see on screen right here today. And in the top right corner of your screen, you'll see there is a link to our official Discord. And if you click on that, you'll be invited to our Discord. We do recommend you join. And the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, to capitalise on our affiliate status, but also secondly, in the fact that if you ever want to be on the grid in a UK sim racing community event, it's a mandatory requirement for you to be on the Discord. But coming back to the affiliate codes, in our Discord there are discount codes available from our affiliates, and they are only available in the UK SimRacing Discord. And if you do make a purchase using one of those codes, well, it works out brilliantly for you because you get a discount on your purchase, and it works out for us at UK SimRacing because we get a kickback. However, really what we should say, it works out for the whole of the UK SimRacing community because we're a non-profit organisation, and all of our affiliate earnings shall be invested back into the community to fund future series, including future editions of the GT3 League and the Porsche Cup, and plenty more as planned for 2023 and onwards. So do remember, a little purchase could go a long way in supporting UK SimRacing, but what can also go a long way right now is giving ourselves a breather to go for the post-round interviews. And we'd just like to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that voting has now also opened for your driver of the day. Link has been posted in the official YouTube broadcast chat, so do make sure to vote for your driver of the day using that link. But in the meantime, we'll be back in approximately 15 minutes time for those post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for us to get underway with our post-round interviews. And today, given the fact that last time out we had a heavily weighted gold interview room, I should say, today we have got quite a few silver drivers instead to balance things out, because at the end of the day, everything should be fairly balanced as it is in the world of sim racing. But we're going to be starting off with Alex Hiscox from Team Wales, the silver driver, who had a difficult start today with a qualifying session that never saw him leave the pit lane, turned it into a great sprint race, which was followed up by a fantastic feature race. And then to Sean Cranny Swash will come to the silver driver, who had a difficult qualifying session in his own right, but turned things around in the sprint and the feature. We'll then come into Jeremy Story, the ultimate defender, if you will, holding off the gold class drivers behind in the feature race, which really made up for a difficult sprint race of the Top Gear Sim Racing driver. And then we'll be hearing it from Thomas Cope, the gold driver from Olympus Esports Vanguard, who today has seen his run of wins come to a close, but still P2s across the board means his championship lead is very well much alive and continue to grow. Without further ado, now joining me in the interview room is Alex Hiscox, and he does join me. Good evening to you, Alex, and well, what a roller coaster ride it has been today. Having started off with a qualifying session where you couldn't get the car out of the pit lane, to then go P4 in the sprint racing class and then take the win in the feature race. I'm not quite sure which way to turn at the moment.
Oh, I had an absolute nightmare. My simulation crashed for the quali. I had to restart my computer, and by the time I got back into the sim, I think there was a minute left or 2 minutes, so I wasn't able to get a lap. Yeah, so I had a bit of a nightmare to begin with.
Oh, goodness me. Well, a nightmare which saw you not have a qualifying session. I have to ask, did that change the way you were going to approach the races, given you effectively starting second from last at the very back of the grid, P34, going into the sprint?
Well, I was hoping, I knew I had some pace in the quali laps when I was doing practice, so I was hoping to quali ahead into the sprint. But yeah, when I started at the back, I just thought I just got to full send it now and push as hard as I can. And luckily, I avoided the carnage, and that gave me the finish that I had, which I'm very happy with.
Well, indeed, and in both races you managed to avoid quite a bit of drama on the opening lap of the races. We've just seen on the replay footage in the background, you were avoiding the carnage into turns 2 and 3 in the feature race, but started off with the sprint race, starting from a position right at the back. It did look very crowded through the S's on the open lap, but still, being so far back, I think you could see it all unfolding.
Yeah, luckily I had the distance, so when the carnage was happening, I was able to just brake and avoid it for the sprint, which allowed me to just sail on through, which was nice. I think if I had placed in the quali, then I probably would have been caught up in all of that. So it turned out in my favour in the end, not having the qualifying session.
Now, making your way through and gaining a number of places through avoiding contact, we then saw you have to continue the charge for the remainder of the 12 minutes of racing, and moving up to P16, then close behind Ryan Walker, albeit there was quite a gap between yourself and the top 3 finishers in the silver class of Hobbs, Greaveson and Eddersford. Do you feel as though that P4 really represented the pace that you could then bring into the feature race?
I don't think so. I think the crashes left a big gap that let the others get ahead. I feel like if I was able to keep up with them, I would have been right there with them. But unfortunately, I wasn't. And then, yeah, for the feature race, I had pace, I guess, and I just managed to keep the car on the road and didn't crash. So it ended well for me.
Well, indeed, and in the feature, we saw you very quickly ascend into the lead of the class, and from that point onwards, never look back. But with that in mind, and the fact you did have a number of gold drivers around you, we saw you at first run at a comfortable pace, and as the race seemed to go on, if a gold driver came up behind you, you immediately started to think about letting them go. Was that always the plan? The silver win is the top priority?
Yeah, I knew my race wasn't with the gold drivers, so if they were quicker than me and they were clearly showing pace, then I just let them by, because it's not worth risking ruining my race for fighting someone that I'm not really racing with.
Oh, an understandable approach. And just coming on to your approach to the Watkins Glen circuit, we heard in the build-up to today from a lot of drivers, number enjoying the idea of this being a slipstream-orientated circuit, others not liking the fact that it really gives way to pack or herd racing. What are your thoughts on the style of circuit?
I think it's a great circuit. It is a very difficult circuit to overtake on, and it's really punishing on our tyres. And yeah, if you want to succeed, you do need to be in the pack, so that is a downfall of it for sure, but I found it a really fun track.
And just in that fun as well, given it's the cup lap, with most of the corners being very heavily banked and a good amount of the lap, I think about approximately 75% of the lap being at full throttle, is that a sort of style that you enjoy in terms of the fact you're not looking back, it's just full throttle, pedal to the metal all the way around?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't really know what my style is, but whatever it is, it suits this track because I've done really well this week, which it was a surprise to me when compared to Spa last week, where I really didn't do well at all, and I found the track really difficult to get around.
Well, speaking of the difficulties of Spa and now the success of today, you're carrying plenty of points as we go into the mid-season break. And in 2 weeks' time, we do return. And when we do return, it will be, I do believe, at the Virginia International Raceway. How are you feeling for rounds 6 and 7?
Yeah, I'm a bit cautious of Virginia. I've raced it in F3 and F4, and I really, really hate the track. So I'm hoping that it's not as cursed as it normally is when I'm in the P-Cup now.
Oh, goodness me. Well, hopefully the curse does not continue into P-Cup racing. But just before we do let you go, 2 final questions. Firstly, you've got a 2-week break. Have you got anything special planned? Perhaps a summer holiday, or is it practice as usual?
It's going to be practice and work, unfortunately.
Oh dear. And then coming on to our final question of the evening, is there anybody you'd like to give a special mention or a shout out to live on the broadcast tonight?
Just yourself, as always, mate. Commentary is always fantastic, and thank you to the race organisers. Roxanne's done a fantastic job, especially with some last-minute issues with the servers. I think the patch for iRacing has messed about with a couple of settings, so just thanks to yourself and to all of the guys who put it all together.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations today on your superb drives to a P4 in the sprint and a win in the feature race, having started so far back. Hopefully it won't be as challenging next time in terms of your qualifying session, but you never know what can happen in the world of motorsport. But until then, we wish you all the best, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
So hearing there from Alex Hiscox, the silver class driver from Team Wales, who today wasn't able to lay down a lap in qualifying due to technical issues and only been able to get into the qualifying session a minute from when it was about to conclude. But after that was then able to turn things around with, in his own words there, having the pace to really charge through the field. And with the instant on the open lap really splitting the field up, that P4, in his own words, not being representative of where he felt he could be, with the fact we did see the top 3 of the silver class finish what was 12 to 13 seconds up the road. But still, for Hiscox, it was all about digging in deep and going hunting in the feature race. And well, with the incident that occurred in the run through the S's at the start of the feature, he was able to steer clear of the carnage, once again like in the sprint, able to see it happening, and with that, able to break away, take the lead into his own hands, and make sure his first and only focus was on finishing first in the silver class. And well, what a mentality to have for the number 2 driver. And with that in mind now, as he goes to Virginia International Raceway, a circuit that he hasn't got along with in the past, is he able to break the demons of old, or will they return? We'll find out on what is Thursday the 27th of July. But coming from our first interview of the day, ladies and gentlemen, to now our second interview. Very shortly we're going to be hearing from Sean Cranley-Swash, and well, from what is the Canadian driver, a day to remember. There's no doubt about it, in the fact that both of his races have gone well, and we're going to hear his insight on what has been an absolutely terrific way to end his first half of the season, albeit he gets ready to join me in the interview room now, and a qualifying session as well, much like his contemporary we just heard from, did not work out. But as he joins me in the interview room now, good evening to you, Sean, and well, what a story from today. A qualifying session I think left a lot to be desired, but then going into the races, a P5 in the sprint race and a P2 in the feature race, a great way to wrap up the run into the mid-season break. Watkins Glen has been fantastic for you.
Yeah, I'm surprised really. I haven't had a chance all week to run any laps. I did a couple Monday in the practice session we put on. Saw it was 50 degrees, decided to give that up after 5, and then turned up today pretty raw. Found I was a couple of seconds off the pace, so that's why my qualifying was put me back of the grid. But I kind of followed Alex through, really, behind him pretty much the entire 2 races.
Now, with that in mind, in terms of not quite being on the pace and perhaps practice not really manifesting the way you wanted it to, what were you focusing on in qualifying in terms of just tuning timing? And like you say, following Alex through in the end, was there a lot you could pick up from Alex, just observing him and trying to follow his 6 from lap to lap?
Well, the temperature's so high, I was mindful of saving the tyres. We've had a couple of races this year in the Porsche Cup, not just in this league, but various places in the officials and the NEC Championship, where saving the tyres really helps. So my focus was on making sure I wasn't burning through those tyres too much to hopefully have a little bit more at the end.
I see, and with that in mind, and particularly tyre saving, I can imagine in the sprint race it wasn't perhaps as important as it would be in the feature race, but with regards to that tyre saving, gives you a bit more life towards the end of the races?
Yeah, I didn't feel the tyres were challenging at all. It was probably my pace as much as anything else, but I was expecting it to get a lot less feel than I did, particularly on the outside tyres as well, as we're always turning the same way throughout the lap.
Now, with that in mind, in terms of the sprint race, we saw you finish in P5 a bit behind Alex, but it looked as though with the incident that occurred at the start of the race, the field was quite heavily split. So taking that forward, a P5 finish, then going into the feature, what was going through your mind at that point? Was it the possibility of a podium, or just wait and see what happens?
Oh, no, not at all. I was hoping what happened in the first race happened in the second race. I was a bit further up this time. And it looked like, just looking back at the race, that a couple of the silver guys took each other out at the start, which really helped me. I don't think I'd have been anywhere near the top 5 otherwise. So I have got lucky with accidents in this race, unlike the previous 2 rounds that we've had.
Indeed, and with Lady Luck shining yourself, when we saw the start of the feature and able to slip through it much like Hiscox, we saw for the remainder of the race a relatively quiet race from yourself, albeit a couple of gold drivers intervening every so often, including Marcel Fritsch. But I think you took the approach of if they get close, just let them go.
Yeah, my thought was that I'm on a similar pace to Alex at the moment. If they come up to me, they're going to come up to Alex. If I let them pass quicker, hopefully they'll hold him up more than they hold me up. Unfortunately, he had exactly the same idea as me, so the gap between us hardly changed throughout the race. I think where we had let the accident happen in front of us on the first lap, he was on the outside, I was on the inside of that corner, and he was able to get more, pulled 2 seconds away, and that was that really.
With that in mind, and still some great points on the board. The points you picked up from today provisionally put you in P4 in the Silver Class Championship, and we head into the mid-season break now, 2 weeks before we head to Virginia International Raceway. How are you feeling with the thought of returning for round 6 and 7 in the US of A?
I'm looking forward to going back there, actually. First league race I did in the Porsche Cup was last season, and that started at VIR. So to go back there, see how my pace has improved over the last 3-4 months, and see if I can to get a better result than last time. That'll be my aim.
Well, we do look forward to seeing whether you're able to achieve that aim 2 weeks from now. But just before we do let you go, firstly, have you got anything planned for the break, or is it practice and work as usual?
No, I'll probably be practicing for the next round early because I'm away, so I'm not going to get much track time the week of the race. So I'll be back for the race, but between now and then, I'm not going to get much time.
Oh, very nice. Well, I do hope you have a nice time off. And lastly, just before we let you go, Sean, is there anybody you'd like to give a thank you, alternatively a special mention to live on the broadcast tonight?
24-hour punty people. Thanks for taking me on to be a teammate this season. It's good to race with someone in the team championship as well as doing it solo. It was a bit lonely last year. I also want to thank Healy's Cornish Rattler Cider. Live life a little fresher with Rattler, who have helped me out this season as well.
Well, Sean, it's absolutely been great to have you join me in the interview room as always. Congratulations on your performances today in both of the races, and we look forward to seeing plenty more from you when we return in 2 weeks' time at VIR.
Yep, thank you very much.
So hearing there from Sean Cranny-Swash, the Silver Class driver, bringing home a great pair of results for 24-hour punty people today. And well, that P5 in the sprint and the P2 in the feature manifesting themselves somewhat through the fact that Sean, much like Alex Hiscox, who we heard from previously, was in the right place at the right time in order to capitalise on the opportunity presented with the nasty incidents on the open laps. But still, whilst able to capitalise on an opportunity, for Sean, it was all about maintaining that pace, and in the sprint race, following Alex through, despite the lack of practice he'd been able to take into tonight, which explained perhaps his unappealing qualifying performance, if you will, as I'm a little bit at lost words right now, the great performances of both Sean Cranny-Swash and Alex Hiscox. But still, in the fact he was able to follow Alex through and then stay with him for as long as possible to seal that P5 in the sprint. Then in the feature, being in the right place at the right time in order to avoid the contact between drivers at the front of the Silver Class field, and we'll move it into P2, and from that point onwards, letting the gold drivers on through in order to see if he could let the gold drivers pull him up to Alex, but still Alex Hiscock's having the same idea and therefore having to settle for a P2 finish in what was a relatively quiet race after an exciting start, but still sometimes those are the races where you can get the big points on the board. And for Sean Cranny Swash moving into P4 in the Silver Class Championship provisionally, well, his time is coming for the 24-hour Punty people to bring home his first win of the season, but question is, could he do it at VIR? We'll have to wait and see. Now coming on to our next interview of today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hearing from our third and final Silver Class driver, albeit I believe he's walked off for a brief moment, albeit understandably. I think he's just grabbing a refreshment, and I think he'll be coming back very shortly to join me in the interview room. It'll be none other than Jeremy Story, and what a pair of drives, or a different pair of drives it's been for Story. Whereas for our first two interviews, it's been about results that have come through being in the right place at the right time to avoid contacts. For Jeremy Story, it was a sprint race not to be remembered, but meanwhile it was a feature race to definitely remember, and battling hard through with all the gold drivers behind him lap after lap. But as we do just wait for him to come back and join us in the interview room, well, we'd just like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you haven't already cast your vote, you can cast your vote for driver of the day using the link made available in the YouTube chat, and that link will be active until midnight tonight British Summer Time. That's BST alternative UTC +1, and we'll make sure you cast your vote for driver of the day, with our previous driver of the day being Patrick Thompson in round number 3 for his performance in carving his way through the field from what was a difficult start race, dropping from P15 to P38 and making his way back up. But we are just waiting for Jeremy Story to join us at this point in time, and as I say, I do believe he is going to be coming back in due order, so we will hear from him very shortly. But as we do wait as well, definitely an exhausting race for good number of drivers, and I think they'll all be grateful for being able to take a rest from the racing. But as we do have this idle moment right now, I think Story may have left us for a brief moment, and well, we may just advance to our next interviewee and then come back to Jeremy Story if he is going to be able to rejoin us right towards the end of today's show. But we'll keep you posted on that, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, I think we are going to jump forward to our final interview of today, and it will be Thomas Cope, who is set and ready to join us instead. So we will just see if he is available. We'll confirm, and then we'll move on to our final interviewee in the order, and hopefully come back to Story when he is available. But as we do wait for our drivers to come on through for interview, give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have Thomas Cope now join us in the interview room. We do apologise for that. We're just getting things settled down in terms of the respective order. And as Thomas Cope now joins me in the interview room, Thomas, unfortunately today, Watkins Glen has seen the conclusion of your hot streak of wins. 3 wins on the bounce in the first 3 rounds. But instead today, it was all about second place finishes. Although I suspect a first was more your target, but it just wasn't quite to be at the Glen.
Yeah, I wanted to try and get the win, but I knew Patrick had the pace in both races. Obviously, I'll start off and say I'm sorry to Patrick. It was an unfortunate incident. My heart goes out to him. I know he'll be really upset right now, because it was his race to win. He had the pace to go and win and go from that point. But unfortunate, also we had the mistake in the incident. And Daniel Sedgley ended up coming through and winning, which, yeah, it's still something to look up to with the team winning the race still, but obviously a big dampener on the evening.
Oh, indeed, a harsh moment there, and we'll come around to that in the feature race in terms of what happened from your perspective in due course. But winding it back to the start of today, qualifying was always going to be close, particularly with this circuit having a limited number of corners and every mile an hour mattering. With regards to your performance, however, a P2 in qualifying, just missing out on pole by a short order, but I suspect that may have been the way you expect it to go, given at your colleague's pace.
Yeah, it was kind of where I thought it was going to be. I knew Patrick had some really good pace. He's been putting in the hours over time to really work on the setup and working on his own driving around this track, and he's had so much prep and so much time to really master his setup, and I think he did do quite a bit of setup work to really get it nailed down as well. So, like I say, Patrick had the pace to really go and do well today. So, obviously, it showed in qualifying. He was 1.13, I think. In qualifying, he was over me by, so it was quite a margin as well.
Well, indeed, a margin of a 10th, that will feel like a lifetime around the Watkins Glen circuit, but that 10th counts for nothing when it's slipstream affected racing when we go green flag, and we saw that in the sprint race, albeit early on, a bit of an instant further behind, but I think your attention was turned more and more towards the front of the field.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a bit of a slipstream race, so the intention was from start to finish to just work as a team and play the long team game, really, and we did the bump draft in going up the straight to really counteract any moves coming up the hill, and then everywhere else we just had the pace to just walk away a little bit, so we ended up pulling the gap on P3, albeit with the incident behind Philip Hammer in lap 1, but still, I think we still gained time through the push in through up the hill and everything from there on.
Now, with that in mind and working with your teammates, a little bit of bump drafting, much like drivers would in NASCAR, if you will, this sprint race definitely showing that sometimes it's all about being patient and working together until the final lap. I have to ask, was there any thought in mind for the two of you to have a little bit of a battle for the win or the final lap, or was it a Olympus Esports Vanguard 1-2 and you'd already settled the order? No multi-21 instant, if you will. It
was a bit of happy with the order. We did originally say if it was similar in race 2, with the gap and how we would have a little bit of a fight. But at least for race 1, it was a bit of a multi-21, allowing Patrick to sort of close upon the championship, knowing that potentially race 2 could have been a good result for him as well, obviously. But we'll get back to that one later. But yeah, we'd settled with the result for race 1 with me finishing second and letting Patrick take the win on the first one, obviously knocking my undefeated run of 3 races, but still an Olympus race win as well. So we've got that to positively look forward to.
Oh, most definitely. And then coming on to our second race of the day, the two of you starting at P7, P8 on the grid. And again, we saw a major incident, albeit this time at the front of the silver class. So therefore, really, the gold header cars at the head of the snake very quickly got cut off and broke away. A top 7 charging off into the distance. And initially, slow progress.
Yeah, obviously, everyone was just biding the time. Everyone knew it was a long race. So the first couple of laps, we were all just running in a train, and then people started getting anxious and started racing. There were a few mistakes and a few overtakes that were a bit obnoxious in my eyes and shouldn't have been. People getting pushed wide and then mistakes, and I think we had 2 cars that wrecked on the straight after the carousel, which nearly took us out, but we luckily got past that. So it bumped us up 2 positions and then slowly picking off the field one by one and really working together as a team, and having Dan ahead of us really helped keep us in touch with the guys ahead as well.
Oh, indeed. And in particular, one moment that does stand in mind for me was the 3 wide into turn 1, which saw your sister team's driver of Daniel Sedgley take the lead, and we saw Philip Hammer come charging on through in the middle of the road as well. Just on that, was it a poor run out of the corner, or just they had a bit more pace at that point?
I had made a mistake myself. I'd had a bit of a rear slide because I was pushing the rears too hard at that point, so I'd actually slid the rear and hit the wall a little bit with my rear end, which allowed the move from Philip and teammates. So, but yeah, obviously all respectful racing. It was all good. It was a great opportunistic move from Philip, and it made it stick as well. So it was a good job from him making that do. But yeah, we managed to pull that back as well and get back ahead of Philip in the end as well.
And then after pulling back the second place to make it a 1-2, we do have to come on to the unfortunate incident through the S's. It looked as though there might have been a little bit of netcode at first between yourself and your Danish teammate, but then unfortunately having to run the way all the way through.
Yeah, well, like I say, it was a bit of a multi-21 between the team, us 2 drivers, and I'd lifted coming up the straight because I knew that Patrick had a bit of a bad run, but we got past, I think it was Kory Lazarus on the outside. Oh no, it might have been Igor Kos, I'm not too sure. But yeah, we both got past, and I was allowing Patrick to come back through. So I'd lifted coming up the S's, and obviously I didn't lift enough. We were coming too wide, and obviously hit the curb on the inside. Pushed a little bit wide as well, which really didn't help. Plus, these cars don't really have any downforce, so it's hard to keep it narrow and go too wide up that section anyways. And just unfortunate situations, I didn't realise I still had the overlap when Patrick pushed out on the corner. And yeah, you can see where it all unfolds from there. Mistakes happen. Obviously, we'll debrief as a team and make sure it doesn't happen again. Obviously, we've got a championship as a team to worry about, as well as our own driver championships, which we're trying to get a 1, 2, 3 in as well. So we'll make sure it doesn't happen again and come back stronger next round.
Oh, indeed. I'm liking the team ethic already with respect to the debrief and then looking ahead to the next rounds. But now as we make our way into the mid-season break, we've got a 2-week break, and well, you're leading at the front of the field by 50 points provisionally over Dan Sedgley, your sister team's Esports Titan driver. How are you feeling going to VIR in 2 weeks' time from now, knowing that you're really leading the charge?
It's actually what I've not really said to anyone. Unfortunately, I won't actually be here for VIR. As I'm actually away. I go away this weekend for the summer break, and I'm still on holiday when it comes back for the racing, unfortunately. So I won't be present for VIR. So hopefully the Olympus teammates can stay up at the front and win in my honour. I will be watching, but yeah, unfortunately it is what it is. I'm not here. So it will be my drop round, which luckily I've been able to keep up a good streak of points going into this far. So I don't think I'll drop behind on points, even without the drop round in place going into that race. But yeah, still a big dampener on the day with all the incidents with points wise.
Oh, indeed. A bit unfortunate with regards to the fact that you're going to have to take your drop round, but still, you get to enjoy a nice holiday, and we hope you have a great time off. And with that in mind, just before we do let you go, Thomas, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a special mention to in tonight's broadcast?
Yeah, massive shout out to Patrick. I think he's tilling down, and I know he'll be happy to hear this, but should have been his night. I'm really sorry to him, and I hope he picks up his head and looks at the positives. He had great pace. He can come back again next round, and obviously VIR, I know he's got some good pace around there, so we'll see how he does at that race. But obviously, as normal, the team, everything Olympus does, all the sponsors, IMB, HSR, Grip Engineering, all those guys do an amazing job to help the car on track. Yourself for the broadcast and all the league organisers, you all do an amazing job, and we love watching you back on a nightly routine.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me, Thomas, in the interview room. Congratulations once again on your pair of second place finishes today, which see you continue to extend your lead at the top of the championship. And we do hope you have a nice time off. It's unfortunate we won't get to see you take on the Virginia International Raceway, but still we'll look forward to your return at the Jerez circuit in 3 weeks from now.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Have a great evening. So hearing there from Thomas Cope, our gold driver today, who having a bit of a difficult end to his racing, given the contact with teammate Patrick Thompson, but at the same Thomas, I should say, but at the same time working it out as best he can, and with that, the team will debrief after the racing. And they'll be then looking ahead to what will be the next pair of races in 2 weeks from now, and looking to take on the Virginia International Raceway. And with Cope not being on the grid there, it will mean he'll have to take his drop score early, but still, he's got that momentum on his side, and therefore the pressure will be on the rest of the field in order to try and seize on the gap, and with that, the opportunity to close the distance before we do see our championship leader back on the tarmac at Jerez in round number 8, 3 weeks from now. Of course, Olympus Esports giving it away there a little bit of a focus, which they want to try and make it a 1-2-3 in the Gold Drivers' Championship, and also, I suspect, a 1-2 in the Teams Championship. So there could be an opportunity there for their drivers to rise up through the ranks, or alternatively for other teams to really start to intermingle. So it's going to be interesting when we return just how both Patrick Thompson and also Dan Sedgley work together in order to try and maintain that vision. But either way, we've got a thrilling second half of the season coming up in 2 weeks from now. And well, with Thomas Cope being absent, that is only going to add to the mystique and also the drama that we can see unfold at VIR. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our third interview of this evening. But we will now be trying to come back to what was previously meant to be our third interview, and now going to be our final interview, to hear from Jeremy Story. And, well, if he is available, we will be having him join us very shortly in the interview room. And well, hopefully we will be able to hear from our silver driver, who really has been one of those drivers of today, who's been able to battle hard and demonstrate to us what you're able to do at the Glen. But we are just waiting to see if he is able to come back, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do wait here, of course, with the time we've got the 2 weeks down between this pair of rounds and the next two, it does give all the drivers an opportunity to recharge. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of practice also goes in with regards to getting ready to go racing once again. And VIR could arguably be considered to be a bit of a reset for our drivers, in the mindset of being able to put some tools down and then pick them back up with regards to getting back in the car and really looking to try and find that pace, and also looking to practice for other upcoming rounds, particularly circuits where they may feel as though they're a little bit weaker at, and therefore they've just got some room. Alternatively, some drivers may decide to take an extended break away from the simulator and also put their feet up and rest, and well, that rest could go well for our drivers. But either way, it does seem as though everybody now set for a rest, including Jeremy Story, who's not available, unfortunately. I think he has left circuit side already, so we are going to have to bring our interviews to a close, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we have heard from 3 of our drivers today, and you have heard firstly from Alex Hiscox, the Team Wales driver in the number 2 car, and well, what a day it was. Phil, the silver driver, picking up his maiden win in the class in the feature race, and also a great recovery from effectively the back of the grid to P4 in the sprint racing class. We then heard from Sean Cranley-Swash from 24-Hour Punty People with a very similar story, and started from towards the back and carving his way through, making it the most of the fortune in front of him and avoiding the instance. And we were meant to hear from Jeremy Story for Top Gear Sim Racing. I'm going to try and see if I negotiate with him to have him join us in the interview room in the next 2 rounds. And well, it's always great to hear different stories from drivers up and down the grid, but I do apologise for not being able to hear from one of our really defensive and really much loved drivers today. And then we did hear from Thomas Cope, our 3rd and final interview we heard from for Olympus Esports Vanguard, with a gold driver there, giving us thoughts on a mixed feelings today with regards to the fact he put in absolutely stellar pace, but in return that unfortunate incident with Patrick Thompson, his teammate, really putting it down on the racing. But still, Olympus Esports will regroup, they'll regather, and they'll go hunting for further results at VIR, albeit with Cope looking from the sidelines as he will be on holiday. But just before we get ready to wrap up, we'd like to remind you that if any of these drivers have caught your eye, or indeed other drivers up and down the field have done so, do not forget to vote for your driver of the day. Votes do close at midnight tonight, BST or UTC +1, and the link is available in the YouTube chat. But with that, thank you to all the drivers once again for joining me for interview. Now with that, it is time for us to wrap up, and well, as we do wrap up, we can see that firstly, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have enjoyed today's broadcast and you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, again, we'd just like to stress, if you do subscribe to the channel, it makes sure that you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts, with weekly series being run at UKSimRacing, all brought to you live from circuit side. And well, if you want to know more about the UKSimRacing community outside our YouTube channel, you can do so via the official website, and that is uksimracing.co.uk. You saw the website appear on screen earlier, and it's the #1 place to go to if you want to find out about all of our ongoing and upcoming series. On top of that, if you're more of a social media person, you can follow us on Twitter to find out about the latest escapades of the official UK Sim Racing community and the esports teams within it. And our social is at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. And also, we'd like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who include Mecca Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, Demon Tweaks, SimLab, Amazon, and SRC Driver Academy, our new and latest affiliate as of this week. And well, let's introduce them each in kind, starting with Mecca Sim Racing Coaching. Mecca is the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist, and his sim racing coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Mecca has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Mecca being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PESCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide. So no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks could help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing and rigs. Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work for the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, including but not limited to one-click shopping, Amazon Prime, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, the SRC Driver Academy, also known as the Sim Racing Community Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Our team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? Affordable quality coaching. We have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on a competitive edge, making high quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to your needs and goals. Learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more. And the SRC offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential, and do visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. And we'd just like to also say, indeed, and today, the SRC has been very kind to provide our winners of the P Cup League with 2 hours of coaching for free, and it's another prize for our drivers to battle for. But thank you to SRC Driver Academy for joining us as part of our affiliate group. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we get an opportunity to take a pause. We get time to turn down the tyres and turn down the engines for a 2-week break. But when we return on Thursday, the 27th of July, 2023, it'll be round 6 and 7 of the Virginia International Raceway. It flows fast. It's full of elevation changes. It's also got a few bumps and gradients to deal with, but the key thing for all of our drivers is they'll be looking to come back full attack, and who will come out on top in the next 2 racing rounds of the season, well, we'll find out then. But until then, our championship leaders, indeed all of us, we're looking to take a key break, but remember never to take your foot off the throttle. For we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, and depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a fantastic summer break, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.